Okie dokie, I believe we are all the way live. Hello and welcome to my graveyard. I'm your host of the evening, the Cemetery Man from Salem, Mass. Always taking names of kicking candy ass. Live in color here with you on Grande's Graveyard. Today we welcome a Twilight Zone diehard fan. I've been wanting to have this guy on for a very long time. He is Anthony, aka Fever Dreamland Theater. Welcome, my friend. How are you tonight?
I am doing well, Grande. Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it, man. It's just awesome to be here. I've been wanting to come on for a minute. So just super happy to be here. Thank you.
Dude, you're so welcome. And I've been wanting to have you on for the longest time because everybody knows me, knows I am a diehard Twilight Zone fan myself, and it's my favorite all-time television series. And in the back of my head, I was like, Anthony watches my show, and I watch Anthony's content, and Anthony does excellent reviews of the Twilight Zone. He's actually up to like 31 episodes. He's reviewed individual stuff, does hardcore research. I adore his style. He has like a very good style and presentation and a script, and he does good work on his channel. And I was like, man, I got to get this guy on the show one day. So I kind of laid the pout out. I said, hey man, I've done season 3. You pick season 1, 2, 4, or 5. And interestingly enough, you picked season 4, which is very interesting. And I am thrilled that you did. But before we get into the getting to know you questions, why season 4? I got to hear it.
It's just such an oddball season, man. It's like there's hits. I guess you could say there's hits and misses with all the seasons. Fair enough. But with this one, man, it's like there's some really big hits and there's some really big misses. And just that hour-long format, that in and of itself, I think there's a fun little conversation there. Did it, did it work? Did it not work? So that's why it's just such an odd season, and I find it interesting for that reason alone. And also, it's there's a lesser amount of episodes, so I can process them a bit better in my brain or what's left of me.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I hear that. And I'll be honest, the show prep for this was kind of nuts. Like I was doing like 4 episodes a night. So that's 4 hours a night watching for this. Like it was hectic, but I had kind of fun. I mean, there were certain episodes I went in, I was like, man, I don't remember liking this one too much. Went out, ended, and I liked it more. But then there was vice versa when I watched one that I was like, man, I don't remember this. And I was like, God damn, I remember why I don't remember this now. This is a bunch of bullshit, but we will get there. I'm excited. Yes. But first, we'll get the comments and then getting to know you questions. Slasher Fred's in the Heezy. You unlock this website with the key of your imagination. And beyond it is another dimension, a dimension of sound. Welcome, Slasher Fred. Mateo's in the house. Ciao, Grande. Glad you decided to do a live today, too. It's not a Thursday without you. Dude, thank you so much, Mateo. And he also says, ciao, Fever Dreams.
Hey, what's up, Mateo?
And Cine Crisis is your buddy. He was actually asking when we went live, and I answered him, hey, season 4 is underrated. There's some great gems in there. Cine Crisis, welcome to the graveyard, my friend. We're going to be talking all things season 4 tonight, so stay tuned. But first and foremost, I always do this with first-time guests. I wanted to ask not 1, not 2, but 3 getting to know you questions. And I feel like these are always fun. So question number 1, I hope you're ready. Question number 1. Final meal of your life. You're going to the electric chair. It's not like Shadow Play, Twilight Zone, where you're going to have to relive it over and over and over. This, you're going to the chair, and you got to decide what you're going to eat before you do so. So you get an appetizer, you get an entree, choice of 2 sides, vegetable, drink, dessert. What are you doing and why? I got to hear it.
That's a great question. I like it a lot. I think I would I'm so basic. I think I'm going to go with like steak for the meal part. I don't know, appetizer. I'll salad. It feels weird to eat salad at this point because I mean, what's the point? I mean, so I guess I start with like a salad. I move into a steak and potatoes, maybe fries, some wine. I don't know. And, I think that would be it. Yeah, that would be my last meal. Steak and fries. Pretty basic.
Steak and fries. I like. Okay, well, how we having the steak? Are we medium well, medium rare? Where are we?
Medium rare.
Me too. I like my steak bloody. I'm a horror fan. I'm the same way, man. And but one dessert. You got to know dessert.
Oh, dessert. Something chocolate. Chocolate cake. We'll say. Yeah.
All right. Very nice. I think that's a nice. The electric chair will.
I'm going to move to everything I just said now, just by going through it.
Exactly. Like, that's why I can't watch, like, Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dines, because then I'm like, man, this guy is in Hawaii. I'm hungry, and I want that exact thing. I can't go to Hawaii. Like, it's not logical, But, okay, so that's question number 1. Question number 2 now, my friend. Red pill, Blue pill.
Mm.
Red pill, you get your dream job at a great salary. Blue pill, $5 million, tax-free, tomorrow, no questions asked. Which pill you taking and why?
Red. I think I'm gonna go with red. Yeah, the dream job thing, because I don't know. It's a tough question, isn't it? Right?
What would you do? What dream job would you pick?
Oh, it would definitely be something. It would be something in the art world, like art director, or something in the movie world, like maybe yeah. I would. It has to be. It would have to be something artistic. It would have to be something either in cinema or just the art world. Like, God, I'm all over the place with that because I'm like almost torn between like something to do with comic books and movies. So maybe just I would land on like something to do with comic book movies or film or something like that, or like a writer, something along those lines. So definitely it has to be something creative, like we do the 9 to 5s and we do those menial things because we have to pay the bills, right? But if it's a dream job, then something creative. All of my and it hasn't been many of them, but the most fun jobs I've ever had in my life, whether it was a gig or a job, have always been something creative. So it would have to be that. Whereas everything else, where it's just sort of been like, where's my thumb? There we go. Where it's been like that, it's something more along the lines of like administrative or customer service, or
I hear that.
That's a long answer. I'm sorry. We're gonna be going for a long time tonight.
Go as long as you want with your answers. And I gotta ask before the last question: why are you turning down the $5 million tax free? I gotta know, what is the reason? Do you not feel you could sustain that? Do you not feel you can invest in that? Is there a reason you picked happiness in a job and a good salary over cash?
Because I would like to think that if I get that dream job, I'm gonna make the $5 million anyway. That's the second part of that I could make it on my own as opposed to having it handed to me. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because if you have $5 million to give me, I'll take it right now.
Me too. You want to split it with me?
Fair enough. Hey, wait a minute. None of this works. No, but
I mean, if you want to split with me, that's fine. But
then it's a deal. Now I'm really glad that I did this stream, because I was not expecting to make that much money tonight. But I'll send you over my contact info and my bank info, and we'll get that going.
You popped the blue pill, and I made $2.5 million. I think it was a fair thing. But last question.
Sure.
Before we get into this topic at hand, you're a big Twilight Zone guy, and I always ask this question to people who love the show as much as me. There's 2 episodes. One of them, they both get their credit from diehard fans, but one of them gets way more credit from the general public as opposed to the other. 2 episodes I'm talking about is The Monsters Who Do on Maple Street and The Shelter. Which of those 2 do you like better? The Shelter, hands down. I agree with that completely, and people think I'm crazy.
No, but both of them are great. They're both classics in my opinion. Spoiler alert: I end up giving them 5 out of 5 something, right? But in the case of The Shelter, I just feel like it's a more subtle approach, and it goes right at the heart of like what lies underneath the surface of people. Whereas I feel like it's a little more broad. That's a little bit more of a broad swing in Monsters Who Do on Maple Street. You have the neighborhood, but it's a much more intimate thing in The Shelter. When you have these ideas of like neighbors turning on each other, it's in a much more isolated place, and it just feels a little more grounded in a way too.
I agree. Yeah. I love the opening where they're all sitting around the table. Laughing like fuck. Hey, can I get you a drink? And hey, can I get you a slice of cake? And they show that they are friends and close. And by the end, we were spared a bomb tonight, but I wonder if we were destroyed even without it. I love it. I think it's just a lot better done. It's a little bit more grounded. I think it's a perfect way to put it. But
and you get to see a little bit more of the aftermath. When we pull out of Monsters Who Do on Maple Street, everybody's just tearing each other apart. When we're done with Shelter, it's false alarm, everybody, it's all good, and you get this awkwardness of everybody like, oh, sorry, I tried to kill you there, and break the door. So you get that, and that's like the real that hammers home the message, doesn't it? Like, let's not eat each other alive, when we're in crisis mode. At least that's my thoughts on it now, as I'm like just thinking about it. That I feel like that's why I think I like that one better. Again, both awesome episodes though.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Absolutely agree. Let's get to a couple comments and we're going to get into it. Season 4 was the only time where the episodes were hour long. Yes, we are going to discuss that briefly. Mateo says, Grande, sorry to ask, But before you start, could you talk a bit about the Argento night? I'm curious. Dude, that was a surreal night. Basically, Dario Argento flew in from Italy to New York City for the weekend to premiere his new movie, Dark Glasses. He did a Q&A for Suspiria, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, and I think his new movie, Dark Sunglasses, and Phenomena, actually. So it was 4. And I went to go see Opera and Phenomena back to back, and then he showed up. Absolutely surreal night. Really cool. Bunch of people. They had the Argento room, which I took a brief video of, all of his classic, one-sheet posters and stuff like that. Just really cool. I never thought I'd be in the presence of Dario Argento. I wish they opened up the Q&A to the people and the public, because I would have totally liked to ask him a question, but they didn't do that. It was just kind of a brief Q&A, and he kind of waved and grazie. It was a lot of fun. It was really cool to see Argento in person. Very surreal moment. Fred, if you watch the 2000s remake of The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, it deals with the fear of terrorism. Yeah, have you seen that?
It's been a while. It's probably been since it was literally on TV in the early 2000s, and all anybody could talk about, during those times, obviously, was like, oh my God, there's terrorists everywhere. And so that was the feeling at the time. I mean, I guess the one thing about that episode is, hey, just like the classic series, it was reflective of the time, and that was, I guess, an interesting twist. If you're going to remake it, then you're going to modernize it, then you take the modern fears and you try to swap them in and see if it works.
Yeah, and that's basically what they did. I haven't seen that episode. I saw the one where it's like a sequel to It's a Good Life.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea in and of itself, to just do, sequelize some of these episodes, right? I don't know that maybe it's not a good idea, depending what the end result would be, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's the only one where they made a sequel, though.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know. I remember being like, wow, I can't believe they did this, but interesting.
The Jordan Peele series had a sort of sequel, which I guess would be spoilery if I mentioned it. So yeah,
I think I know which one you're talking about too.
Right. If you know what I mean, then you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, absolutely. Frank from my office. Frank, good to see you, man. It's first time ever on one of my lives. He called you out. Who called me out? Nobody called me out. I don't think. But all right, we're going to get into season 4. And like you said, this is the oddball. Most people consider this the weakest season. Yeah. I don't know if I'm on that boat. Maybe it is. Yeah. Because I know a lot of people hate season 5 too, but there are some episodes of season 5 that I consider like all-time masterpieces. So I don't know. I would probably say, a lot of people consider this or season 5. The big elephant in the room is the hour-long format. And I don't know about you, but a lot of these, they do feel a little bit overlong. What do you think, though?
I tend to agree, and from what I saw online, even Rod Serling agreed that that wasn't the way to go. That format wasn't the way to go. They ultimately, returned to the half-hour format for the last season. Overall, I'd say no. In some cases, it worked to the advantage of the story, to have that time. I think that ideally the best way to go, at least with this season, with season 4. It would have been maybe something like what we have nowadays, where episode lengths vary, and you don't have to worry about commercials. But that's more on your streaming services and stuff like that, where one episode is 20 minutes, the next episode is 30 minutes, the next episode is 40 minutes. It's whatever the story needs it to be. That would have been the perfect way to go. But of course, they weren't thinking this way. 1960s, it was just, this is the format. It's an hour. We squeeze in the commercials on these times. That's what it has to be. You're either cutting stuff or you're expanding it out, and adding in filler. And yeah, there's a lot of these that feel like there's filler happening, even in some that I enjoy. Anyway, overall, they have their moments where it's like, okay, we're slowing down here. We don't need this. We don't need that. But yet, to me, the best hour-long episodes, I don't know. It's like I hesitate to say cut this or cut that or whatever, because they're overall they're so good. But then there are other episodes where it's like, could they have worked as a half an hour? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think that I completely agree with that. I know there were certain ones of these scripts that were written before they made the move to go to the hour format, and one of them were actually going to be the second one we talk about. I know that's the most infamous one that Rod Serling had it in the can, and they were like, "Oh, you need to add another 30 minutes to this," and he's like, "Oh shit!" So he had to go back, and that episode sort of suffers. A few of these do suffer from it, and I think it's also being used to 3 seasons of the half hour. automatically turning it on its head. Okay, now these are an hour long, like interesting. Some of them, I think they needed it. I do think some of these, it's like, wow, like I'm glad we got more time to,
Mhm, mhm,
develop and stuff. But
mhm.
there's also some that it does feel more of this, instead. So, I mean, it is what it is. But we can jump right in to the season premiere. This one actually debuted on January the 3rd, 1963. This is In His Image. A scientist played by George Grizzard creates a near perfect mechanical man endowed with all the qualities he feels he is lacking. Yes, that's kind of for the plot synopsis, that's a kind of a spoiler alert. But I mean, it is what it is. In His Image, Mr. Fever Dreamland Theater. What are your thoughts on this one, man?
This one I liked a whole lot. I think a while back I did a list on like underrated episodes. This one was definitely this one was up there on that list. This one was like such a pleasant surprise because when you watch it from beginning to end, unless you see that twist coming, and I don't know if we're going to be doing spoilers or not too much here. But like anyway, like I could just still say like if you watch it from beginning to end, when I watch it, I was just like, where the hell is this going? Because there's so many strange elements. I was thinking, is it aliens that are in this guy's, because he's hearing noises and there's lots of inconsistencies. He goes to visit his hometown, if I remember correctly, and it's like that wasn't there, this wasn't there, and people don't remember him. So it's like, what is going on here? And I love that mystery. And there's a payoff. There's a great payoff. So I'm a fan of this episode. I don't know if you are yet, but this is the fun of it, is that, but yeah, I like this one a lot.
Yeah, no, I do too. I think this is a very solid season 4 episode, a good one to kick it off with. And I think right off the bat, the thing about this episode I like the most is the opening scene. And it's
That's
basically our lead character is in a subway train
yeah,
station,
yeah,
and
yeah.
this old woman who actually was in another episode, One More Paul Bearer, she's in that one.
Okay.
She's like this, you know, homeless older woman, and she's yelling about the good book and the Bible and all these things, and you can't succumb to the devil, all this stuff.
Yeah,
And basically he's hearing these noises in his head and ends up throwing her in front of the train.
yeah,
And Rod Serling's narration, what you've just witnessed is would be the end of most nightmares, but you just witnessed the start of one. And I'm like,
yes.
yo, like
It's
very cool.
it's a horrific way to start things off. And like, we're both New Yorkers, so we can relate. Like right now, or I should say recently, there's just been a rash of insanity on the trains and the subways. You have to like, we have to take all of us. We have to take a train at some point, right? But it's like, oh my god, I don't want to. Every time in the news, every few seconds, you hear about some awful incident happening on a train. So even for that alone, you can relate to it, right? It's just like,
Yeah.
oh my god, why did this maniac just push this woman on the tracks? I mean, she seemed she seemed a bit out there herself, fair enough, but still, that's
Yeah, no, I didn't. When I first watched it, I didn't expect it. I'm like, oh, some weird, creepy. I thought she was going to say like some stuff that would become later on,
yeah,
relevant to the episode, and she
yeah,
does. But
yeah,
expecting him to throw her in front of the tracks, I was like,
yeah,
holy crap! And like,
yeah.
you got to think about this is 1963.
No, there are things in that's one. This is one of the moments, but there are things throughout the whole series where I find myself like, wow, they put that in there, or they noted, or they mentioned that, or they referenced that, right? Like, not to go off base too much, but yeah, like the Living Doll episode, there's infertility is mentioned where the stepdad, has difficulty having children or whatever. It's just like, wow, I feel like that certain subjects, it feels like would just be like a no because Rod Sterling had to deal with so much censorship and problems with sponsors. But here we are with a dude very violently just throwing a woman onto it on into the path of a train.
Yeah,
It's horror movie stuff, basically.
it is, and
And
it's
then it mellows out after that, doesn't it?
yeah. He
It's
goes home. He's
bizarre.
like, hey, honey, it's
Yeah, he comes home and you're like, oh, so this is like American Psycho or something, right? It's like, what do we?
yeah, American like robot psycho. I don't know, but yeah, this one I do like the chemistry between the two leads, and it becomes sort of this kind of a little bit of a mystery, and we will get into spoilers. I guess we could just give warnings because it's
Yeah.
Twilight Zone. It's hard to not talk about the twists.
Yeah, it's gonna be to not mention spoilers in some of these, it's tough, right?
Yeah. You get to the end and he basically realized that he is a robot. He has this like cool little special effect where he pulls up the skin on his wrist and you see that he's a machine, and he meets his creator, and he's the third one he's created because he's been trying to create the perfect image of himself. But
Mhm.
of course, all of these things have gone wrong. And this one has the urge to murder people. Like,
He's a little
Uh-oh.
murdery. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I like that whole idea, like the psychology behind that of, we all want to create the perfect image of ourselves. And this guy actually went to, say it was his dream. It's my
Yeah.
dream to create the perfect version of
Yeah.
myself and live up to that. And I don't know. I thought that was an interesting dynamic to tackle here. And it definitely played well into the hour-long format.
And the actor pulled it off 100%. It felt like two different people in that scene. It really did. It
Yeah.
completely felt like two different people in that scene, despite the fact that it was the same actor.
Yes, absolutely, and they did a good job. Like I think
Yeah.
the female, the love interest in this, she did a
Mhm.
really good job. She was also in a few other Twilight Zone episodes. I don't know. I really like this one overall. I was going to do a tier maker, but I couldn't see it too good. But we can still give like letter grades if you want.
Yeah,
What would you give
fair
this
enough.
one
Oh,
from? We'll go from S to F. S being satisfactory, the best. F being failure.
so S on this one, and I go with this is
S. Okay. I'm going
yeah.
to say a strong A. I thought this was
Okay.
a really good episode, a good kickoff. And Twilight Zone, it's funny, not too many season premieres that I would say are like classics. Like King 9 Will Not Return, I always found boring.
Hmm.
2 is another one I sort of always found boring. Like, this is one of the better season premieres, I would say,
Mhm.
of the Twilight Zone. And I don't know, I kind of like this one too. So an S and an A for me. We think we both highly recommend
Fair.
this one for
Yeah.
sure. Cinecrisis says, if I recall, CBS had canceled the show, and then when the replacement show failed, they decided to bring Twilight Zone, and they were stuck in the hour-long slot. Well, that is, I wish they would have stuck with the half hour. Maybe we got
Yeah.
more. There are a
Yeah.
lot of Twilight Zone episodes in season 4 that dealt with lessons. The Incredible World of Horace 4 dealt with accepting adulthood. Well, a lot of these, the entire series deals with lessons, I think. And for the better or the worse, we're shown these episodes and learn these lessons along with them.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of really like this show. There's always something not exactly prophetic, but something that you can relate to and have experienced in everyday life. But do you want to introduce this next episode? I don't know if you have like plot synopses or anything, but I
I
mean, we can go
do
back and forth.
a little bit here. Let's see. 30 Fathom Grave was episode 2 of the 4th season. Let's see. Forgive me, people. It's going to be a bit of a Wikipedia types of description here, but let's see. In this naval-themed episode, the crew of a Navy destroyer hear a mysterious rhythmic knocking coming from a sunken sub. The eerie sounds emanate from a submarine on the ocean floor. So it's a mystery. Like not to go through the whole summary. So it's a mystery. What is this? What is this bizarre knocking sound? A very haunting episode.
Yes. And definitely a take at horror with the
Yeah.
Twilight Zone. And I will say that this one, when it started, this is one of the ones I did forget
Mhm.
I was like, man, I don't remember this one that well. It has its moments, but this one is totally crippled from being too long. Like this
Mhm.
one is very overlong. And funny enough, I don't know if you realize the lead, Mike Kellen, is actually Mel from Sleepaway Camp, which I marked out. I was like, he looks familiar. I
I
typed it.
thought he looked like John Cena. I thought he had a John Cena.
John Cena, yo.
John Cena. Okay, anyway, but no, that's awesome trivia. There you go. I
Yeah,
love it.
no, I recognized it. I'm like, that guy, man. And I looked it up. I was like, holy shit, it's Mel from Sleepaway Camp. Like,
Do you
small
think
world.
this would have worked better? I do. As just a half-hour episode.
Yes.
That
And
would have
that's
been like a
initially what it
straight
was written
classic,
for.
right?
Yeah.
Or at least up there, I think.
I think absolutely, because the whole idea is, like you said, they hear these things down and
Yeah.
they send this diver down
Yeah.
like 4 times. Like, I swear to God, if you want to play a drinking game this episode, that's probably the most entertaining thing you could do. Take a shot every time that diver goes down. You'll be dead by like the 38-minute mark. Like that guy goes down like 4 times.
That's padding. That's just straight padding. We could just say what it is. At least that's what it feels like to me. It feels like we need the episode to get to this length, and let's just go down on another dive. Go down on a dive again. But a lot of the interesting stuff to me is like there's some really great acting in this episode though, and there's a really cool reveal. And then we're spoiling stuff a bit, right? So the apparitions that show up, 2 of the ghosts or whatever. It's like there's some creepy stuff in here. Again, oh my god, this would have made an awesome half-hour episode. This isn't the one that was a half hour, was it originally?
This was. They
It was.
they
I
contacted
had a
Rod Sterling
feeling.
and said, you need to add to this. And he went, oh, and then he did. And then that's why I think a lot of people kind of give this one bad reviews. And I see why. Like,
Yeah.
but I could see the potential it
Yeah.
had.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And it looks pretty good too. Like it doesn't look cheap or anything like that. It holds up pretty well. Yeah, it didn't quite come together for me. Yeah, like for grading. I don't know if we're quite doing grades yet. Yeah, I think I had this as like a C or something like that. This episode.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I would
Yeah.
probably go D. And
Okay.
I hate to do it because the things that do work in this episode do work. It is a horror themed episode
Yeah.
because it's the whole idea of Mike Kellen was a part of this crew and he got out of there and he was the only one that didn't die, and that's why they're haunting him. And the scenes where there's the ghosts in the mirrors doing this and like or
Mhm.
calling him in, I was like, that's fantastic. The only
Yeah.
problem is that takes like 30, almost 35, 40 minutes till that happens of a 50-minute, it's just a little too long. It really is hurt by it. I agree with you. I think this could have been a classic where people go, oh, do you remember that creepy one on the boat?
Yeah.
But there's just too much in the middle where it kind of draws this one back a little bit.
There's not enough twists. There's not enough turn. Like that's another thing I think these need a little bit, right? Like you need a few more twists. Like the previous episode we talked about in his image, there's some twists and stuff. That episode never feels padded to me. This one feels padded.
Exactly. And that's a running theme. There's a few of these, like we'll get to Death Ship. There's not a minute of Death Ship that I wanted to
Awesome.
move on. I think Death Ship is so well paced, and it's
All right.
This one, it's like
on that one.
this one, I'm like, Jesus, like when is this something's gonna happen in this, And like I don't consider myself easily bored. This is one that I think is quite boring.
It's not unwatchable. It has, you mentioned it has its high points, but it slows down, and you can see the padding, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, definitely like worth a look, because the acting is good and the sequences of horror are good, but that's about it for me with this one. I don't know. I definitely think a below average episode of the Twilight Zone potential, but I think the hour-long format kind of killed this one. It's a shame because Rod Serling, I mean, how many great scripts did the guy write? This one, I think they kind of forced him into elongating it. But so you went C. I'll go D for me on this one. So that's what there, and we got a couple comments. I read that the plot twist for King 9 will not return, where sand is found in the guy's shoes, was originally written as the plot for the plot Where Is Everybody? Oh, yeah, because it's basically a remake of Where Is Everybody?
Yeah, so it would have been a movie ticket, I think. Is that the story? Like,
I think he had
a movie ticket in for the original episode, for the pilot episode.
Yes. He find a movie ticket in his pocket. 30 Fathom Grave has amazing payoff, but just way too slow. I completely agree. If you replace the synapses, the sound with a vodka bottle, you have the movie Leviathan. Oh my God. Leviathan's a lot better than this, I would say. It's a lot more entertaining. At least you have Amanda Pays and oh God, what's it from Home Alone? Daniel Stern. I love a lot of parts and aspects of that movie. Incredible World of Horror Stories is a very young Pat Hingle. Yeah, we're gonna get there. We're definitely gonna get there. That's one of the last episodes of the season. Burgess Meredith, Julie Newmar, Stafford Rep, all play. And funny enough, Meredith and Newmar. Anthony mentioned this to me. It's Catwoman and the Penguin. Cool.
Yeah.
King Negor's in the house.
Hey.
So little mama. Candy cane. I'm looking for Candy Cane. Dude, welcome to the graveyard tonight, man. I appreciate you being on and checking the show out. But all right, next episode. This debuted on January the 17th, 1963. This is Valley of the Shadow. A reporter visits a town whose inhabitants can manipulate time, energy, and matter. Yes, Valley of the Shadow. Now, this is, I think, one of the more underrated ones from this season. But what are your thoughts?
I'm going to agree on it being underrated. Yes. This one, okay, so I feel the padding in this one too a little bit, but it's still really good. And it has such a strong start. I think my favorite part of this episode is the setup and the mystery that kind of keeps you guessing. We get everything very literally explained to us. We have technology, we have this, we have that, and it's all interesting stuff. And it unfolds nicely. Overall, I like this episode a lot. Yeah, I really do. I guess I'll save my grade until the end, though.
Yeah, no, I really like this one as well. I think right off the bat, the idea is really interesting, and this is a season that it focuses on a lot of I would say much more important ideas. Like when we get into the next episode, a lot of people consider that's a much more important one. We had Slasher Fred mentioning adulthood versus childhood with the Incredible World of Horace Ford. And this season seemed to tackle some serious themes. This is one that probably would fly over people's head because it's just really the idea of a small town.
Yeah.
And I love the opening narration, small towns. We normally go right through them, don't think twice about them. But now our lead character cannot look back because this episode opens, he's getting gas. his dog gets out of the car, and this little girl pulls out this weird machine
Yeah.
and like makes his dog disappear. And he's like, "What the hell did you do with my dog?" And the little girl runs in the house, and right there, like I remember when I first watched this, I was like, "What?" Like
You're hooked. You're completely hooked, right?
it's a
And even
perfect
from there, it keeps going. There's that quick the car accident thing, which is done really well. There's a bit of a car accident eventually. That's sort of what, and then he gets dragged back into town. All of that stuff just pulls you right the hell in, doesn't it? And Scotty shows up from Star Trek. I'm a Star Trek geek, so
yes.
it's only a bit part or whatever. But hey, it's like, yeah, Scotty. I think he's one of the townspeople. So I wish he would have been
still cool to see him in there. No,
yes,
I agree with you. Yeah, like you said, that car accident scene where he's driving and he hits an invisible wall.
Yeah,
like this town, they have invisible walls around stuff. They can make shit disappear. You could be stabbed, and they can literally take back the stabbing with the machine. Like, and the whole idea and the argument of this episode is our lead character saying, "How can you hoard this while you have people dying of hunger, and you could feed them with this machine for nothing, and you could cure diseases, you could cure cancer, you could cure all these things. How could you hoard it away?" And their argument is, well, if we open this up to the world, it can also do a lot of bad. And like, I really enjoy the counter arguments in this episode. And really, I think is what the Twilight Zone is all about, making the viewer think, well, I agree with the lead. He's making some good points, but also they have a point too. We are man. We are mankind.
And they proved their point. They proved their point a little bit when they set them up there. But yeah, you're right. This is like the best of Twilight Zone is always like, hey, there's this side of the argument and there's this side of the argument, and we can shout at each other, or hopefully we don't shout at each other. We can discuss like which is better, right? Which is the way to go. I don't know. I come away from this episode and I am conflicted on like what was the better path here. But there's some great philosophical subjects that are tackled here, and it's some fun sci-fi, right? It's and you don't expect it. It just kind of creeps up on you. That's where the story goes.
Yeah, no, I think I really like this episode from top to bottom. I think the lead does a really good job. He has a sort of love interest in the episode, this other woman in the town that sort of falls for him. And, they have a couple of twists along with her character that I didn't necessarily see coming, but I thought were interesting. And no, you're right. They do kind of prove their point. Like you killed with it. You did this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, I think that's what the Twilight Zone is all about. And like, I see ideas for either argument. I do. Like you cheer for the lead. At least I did. I liked him.
I did too. He was very strong.
I do understand the idea to hoard it though. Like we are saying Peaceful Valley. That's the name of the town, which I thought was funny. Like, of course it's Peaceful Valley. I don't know. I think this is kind of an interesting one. And this is one that while you said, I do agree it drags in spots.
Yeah.
This one actually needed to be longer, I think, though. I don't know if you could have told the story in 25 minutes. Do you?
No, not this one. I don't think so. Not like, it's like, although I feel it's padded, like, although I feel like there's some stuff in here doesn't, like, it's hard to, it's always hard to say, we'll pull this out or pull that out. I guess, I mean, in the case of 35 and Grave, we could say take out a few dives, and I think we'll still get the point of the story. But here it's like, I don't know. I mean, I was interested enough in the little love story that they popped in here. I was interested enough in the dynamics between the elders, and their technology. I kind of actually wanted to know a little bit more about that, but it is what it is. I think it's tough, like between an A or a B for me on this one. Just curious, where did you land on this one?
I'm leaning. It's either a really strong A or like a low S. It's close. Yeah. Like it's in terms of this season, it's absolutely an S. In terms of like the whole series, I don't know if I would put it there. Like I don't like that. That's what makes this hard.
Yeah, this is a tough one, right? It is a tough one.
I think it's a very strong A. I'm going to give it a very strong A. I don't know if I could quite give it the S because you are right. It does drag a little bit. Yeah. I think I like the idea of it more than a lot of people. And it's
executed so well. I'd lean toward the A too, I think, in this case. I mean, there's so many strong points here that I mean, to be fair, I'd hate to take away too many points for saying, oh, it was padded out, but then I can't quite identify, well, what would I take out? It feels like then just go with an A, because obviously it's not bothering me enough, at least right now, right? Yeah. It's not bothering me enough. I don't feel that like it killed the episode.
I agree completely. I think this is a
You tried to
solid
defend it.
hour-long one for sure.
So,
I
yeah.
definitely recommend this one.
Uh,
A couple more comments. I read the episode The Encounter was originally banned mostly because it dealt with racism. Yes, that is the one with George Takei and I think, oh God, what the hell's his damn name? He was in Eaten Alive too.
boy.
Neville Brand.
Oh, there we
Brand.
go.
And that's a very intense episode, but I could see why. I mean, they say some words at that time and now even that aren't really, PC. Horror Boy Nate's in the house. Sorry I'm late. Dude, welcome to the graveyard, man. Good to see your name. Always good to see you, man. Hope all is going well. But if you want to introduce the next episode, please, my friend, go ahead.
Sure, we're coming up on He's Alive, I believe, right now.
Yes.
Right? Dennis
yeah.
Hopper. He's Alive. I mean, we could read an episode in the description. It'll probably be better than what I could mumble out. But let's see. It tells okay, yeah, let's see. Episode 4 of the 4th season of Twilight Zone tells the story of an American neo-Nazi who was visited by the ghost of Adolf Hitler. But I think we could just launch into this one, right? My God.
Yeah, this is heavy-handed.
Yeah. God, do you think this would even be made today?
I don't think so. I think you'd piss too many people off. Like I really do. And like I can understand why there was uproar then, but props to them because Hitler and all that stuff was only not even going on 20 years before this.
Yeah.
So it's like very like maybe the whole too soon, like maybe it was a little too soon to be going here, but I know that Rod Serling has said in interviews that he felt this was the most important episode of the entire series due to the subject matter and the message and the themes. I like this episode. I won't say that it's a classic. I don't know if this is really a pleasant one to watch, but again, that's the point. Like it's not supposed to be a pleasant watch.
Yeah. This is another one with a strong opening too, where it's interesting that he's Dennis Hopper's character starts as like as like a joke. He's in the street and people are like breaking his chops and then his power starts growing. He's aided literally by the ghost of Hitler. And I mean, just the messages in this, it's like, this is like when we say, oh, Twilight Zone is timeless, what do we mean when we say the Twilight Zone is timeless? This episode is specifically pointing out why fucking hate and prejudice and racism, like the nightmares that it can bring about. Rod Serling himself said that like hate and prejudice is like one of the most, it was one of the most atrocious evils that we can have as humans, is just hating and being prejudiced against each other. And this episode is like all about that. And it's right in our face. Maybe for some people it's a little bit too much. It wasn't for me. This episode would be an easy A for me. Spoiler alert. I like this one a lot, and Dennis Hopper was great in this. Maybe the only weak points are just like literally showing Hitler. Would it have been better if he was just straight in shadows? I don't know.
Maybe my main complaint for this episode is the fact that the whole time, I don't know about you, I feel like they're trying to make it like it's a twist. Like a lot of it, they're showing Hitler in the shadow. I'm like, it's clearly Hitler. Like, why? And the episode when they reveal it, they're like, dun, dun, like, I'm like we knew it was like, I don't know. Maybe in a show with great twists, I just felt it was a little odd that they were like, oh, can you believe this? I'm like,
I don't know. It's tough.
Everybody had to have known.
Something, I mean, like you said, maybe it's a matter of it being a product of its time, and people back then weren't expecting them to go there and be like, oh God, Hitler. But they went there. I liked that it had balls and it went there in that respect. But I'm a little bit conflicted on it because I'm like, I don't know, maybe just artistically it would have been better to have him in shadows. But who knows?
Or maybe never reveal it then it's go, okay, obviously it's Hitler, or like, I don't know, like maybe just showing him straight up and then trying to be like, oh, this is a very big like, I'm like, damn, like, I don't know. That's my one probably gripe. Hopper's great, and it was directed by interesting enough, Jewish director Stuart Rosenberg. Who went on to direct Dennis Hopper and Cool Hand Luke, which I thought was very interesting.
There we go.
I was like, wow, and this wouldn't be his only directed episode of the 4th season. He actually, I think, turned around and directed Mute, which is the next one, and which actually takes place in Germany. Some of it. So that's pretty interesting. But I don't know. I like this episode. People could say, oh, it's a bit preachy. Like I would dare to say, if they did remake this today, they'd have Jordan Peele write it. Like they'd have somebody who's much more into like the political aspects of horror, and themes like that. That's who would write it. And like, to me, the closing narration is very interesting. where he says, he's alive so long as these evils exist. Remember that when he comes to your town. Remember it when you hear his voice speaking out through others. Remember when you hear the name called, a minority attacked, any blind, unreasoning assault on people or any human being. He's alive because through these things we keep him alive. That's classic Rod Serling. That's really good writing, in my opinion.
And I'm so glad you pulled up that quote. Yeah, I was watching a little bit. I'd like to refresh, like prior to this to this stream. Yeah, that quote alone, I mean, that really hammers it home, doesn't it? Like it's all right there.
And it's all relevant to this day. I mean, talking about minority attacks, talking about, he's and these ideas. And I will be honest, like, I don't know about you. I think this particular subject is a lot better handled in Death's Head Revisited. I like Death's Head Revisited a lot more than this, mainly because of the horror aspects as opposed to the political.
Yeah.
This one's more political horror. That one's horror political. And I like that it's more heavy on the horror. That's just me, though. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I've never considered that. Yeah, it's an interesting comparison. I'm not too sure, like, which is better. Oh, geez, I feel like they're almost working for me on about the same level, even though they're so drastically different. They're kind of working for me about equally.
Yeah, and I think
now, just off the top of my head, like without like really trying to process it and think of like the pros and cons across the two.
Sure. No, I think, like, if you think about Death's Head Revisited, the closing is the doctor. Why do we let Dachau stand? Why do we let Auschwitz stand? And Serling says there's an answer to the doctor's question. It's a reminder to a moment in time when men tried to turn the world into a graveyard. Pun intended on Grande's graveyard. But, I think that message it's just, even though I think it drives the point home, I think it's very, strong statement. It doesn't sound as beating you over the head with the message political than this does. Although I do think both are very well written episodes. Both are good episodes. For me, I'm going to say like a B. I think it's a solid B. I like Dennis Hopper. I like the direction. I just, that twist, the fact that they're like making it like, oh, this is a big twist. I'm like, God damn it. Like,
I know I wasn't expecting Santa Claus, guys. Okay.
Yeah. Odd, very odd, but is what it is. He's alive, started a very young Dennis Hopper. Absolutely does a great job. I think they could make it today. They made Jojo Rabbit. Maybe they could. BCI Comedy Studios. I don't know if that's one of your buddies.
Yeah, BCI. Good to see you here. Thank you for
I think BCI started at the beginning because he's at the red or blue pill question. He said, nice answer. I fell asleep until you said dream job and 5 million. Wow. Okay. So that hooked somebody. Very cool here. There was an episode of the 2000s remake called Cradle of Darkness where a woman is sent back in time to kill a baby Hitler. Oh, I have not seen that.
No, I haven't seen that. I think I came across that when I was researching for Evolution of Twilight Zone video, and I was like, oh, I want to check that out. I haven't had a chance to see it yet. I'm curious about some of these different series.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And
different Twilight Zone series, I should say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I would like to, for some reason, part of me wants to watch the early 2000s one, but the DVDs are like out of print and they go for like $100+ to get that, man. I don't know if I want to drop that, but out of curiosity, I'd like to like run through all those.
Yeah.
But I guess we will move on into this next one, man. I don't know what the hell we're going to say with this. This is season 4, episode 5's episode Mute, which debuted and aired on January the 31st, 1963. Parents raise their daughter, played by Ann Gillian, without verbal communication in order to fully develop her telepathic powers. Now, before I get your thoughts on this, the Twilight Zone had many weird episodes, and we have all the famous ones, but they've had some weird ones. Come Wander With Me, very weird. The Bewitching Pool, Queen of the Nile, Spur of the Moment. There's some weird zones in there.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any weirder than this one right here. I really don't. Like, this is a weird...
Even weirder than, like, Come Wander With Me, which I believe is season 5.
Come Wander With Me, at least to me, has the atmosphere of a Twilight Zone episode.
Yeah. Oh my God, I want to do a top 10 weird Twilight Zone episodes now.
Oh, please.
Join me on the...
Yeah, no, please, if you do that, please let me know because I will be the first. I'll watch the premiere of that because I love the weirdest ones. But, this one to me is the weirdest episode of the entire series.
It is weird, yeah. I'd say it's weird. It starts in a weird place. It ends in a weird place. It's, my God, yeah. This one, more. Some of the hour-long episodes give me a vibe, not so much of being Twilight Zone, but feeling like I woke up at 3 in the morning and just turned on an old black and white movie. That's what this feels like to me. Mute doesn't feel very Twilight Zone-ish to me.
No, not at all.
Okay, so yeah, we're in agreement. So like, not my favorite. Definitely not my favorite. God, I don't even know that I could say I'm thrilled with the concept on this one either. I don't hate it. It's watchable. There's some good stuff in it. I guess there's some nice performances and stuff, but yeah. Geez, not even a lot to say. I feel like I'm going mute on this.
You're going mute? Yeah, exactly. That's why I said, like, I don't know what the hell I would even say. And I rewatched this and I'm like, I was sitting there, I'm looking around like I'm like 35 minutes in. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to say. Like, about this. Like, I just think it's odd. It's
same here. So in terms of themes, because they want the girl to talk and all that, is this episode trying to swing us toward being toward conforming? Because it seems like so much of Twilight Zone is like, hey, let's not, fall into conformity. And then this one is like, no, we need you to conform and join. Right?
But then there's the scene in the classroom with the teacher, and she's like kind of berating her a little bit. Yeah. And I'm just like, wait, what the heck? Like, I don't know. But again, interesting telekinetic powers, kind of the odd girl out. Maybe I wonder if somehow, some way, Stephen King saw this and thought, man, what if I put it in a high school in America?
Lots of blood.
And lots of pig blood, absolutely. But I don't know, man. This one, it's just like, I think the main thing that's weird is the tone. And it has no atmosphere. It takes place in like Dusseldorf, Germany.
Kind of flat. Yeah, it's flat. Yeah.
Yeah. And like it sort of it's trying to go for a heart at the end. Like, it's like, oh, we have a good heart now at the end of this. And they kind of end this episode there and walk off into the sunset. I'm like, what? Like, very odd. I don't know. I think this is the weirdest episode of the whole series. I really do. Like, I think there are ones that have weirder concepts, but as a tone, like the biggest, like you said, season 4 is the oddball. This is the oddball episode of the oddball season.
This is the oddballiest. Is that a word? I'm going to make that a word. Oddballiest.
It is. It really is.
It really is. Yeah. Yeah. I guess we'll see as we continue to go through them, but yeah, I would say so right now. I'd say so. Yeah.
Like
the ones that we have. Yeah.
It doesn't fit in anywhere. Like with any, like it's not like, okay, it reminds me of this one, reminds me of that one. Like, no, not really. Like it's just kind of.
To me, yeah, it's just it just feels like I woke up and stumbled upon some weird movie and I was like, oh, it's a Twilight Zone. Okay, if you say so.
Yeah. I don't know. Something about this episode never kind of grabbed me. I don't know if I give it an F, but I'm close.
No. It's like it works sort of. It just doesn't work for me. It's not like it doesn't completely fall off the rails. It functions. It's kind of boring too. I hate that. That's not good. For Twilight Zones is to ever be boring, obviously I guess it's not good for anything, but yeah, this would be a I think I had a D for this one.
I would agree with that. I think it's either a very weak D or an F, pretty much. I'm pretty much there. It's the first one where I'm like, okay, this is close to being a failure, but I don't know. It has, I guess, I bet you there are people out there that love how different and weird it is. And I'm that way with other episodes.
Yeah, maybe in the comments or online. I feel like I have it. I don't even have I'm not sure one way or the other. I just feel like this is one I don't think I've ever heard anybody mention one way or the other. So I don't know if I guess with all Twilight Zones is going to be people like, oh my God, that's my favorite, which is why I always hesitate, even in reviews, to say, don't bother watching this at all. Nah, because, you never know. It could be the next guy's favorite episode of all time or whatever. That's fair enough. I guess for both of us though, that this one was not happening.
I would say one of the first swing and miss, I would say, of this season. Although 30 Fathom Grave is kind of a swing and miss too. I love the little girl's line, "My name is Elsa." Yes. The season 4 finale, the Bard. Oh shit. Starred Judy Stranglis, and also young Burt Reynolds is on that. Watch Woman Down. Yeah, very cool. But yeah, no, that we'll get to that one. That's going to round out the show. But
round out the show. Oh my God.
No, I don't know how we're going to end on that one, but I think
I love it. No,
yeah, I hope not. Jeez, that one was. That was the last one I watched. I don't know, but you want to introduce the next one, because I think we both love the next one.
Let's see, are we up to? Let's see, what's our next one?
Episode 6.
Episode 6.
Not Return of the Jedi.
All right, here we are. Oh, Death Ship, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, 3 astronauts discover the wreckage of a ship identical to their own on an unexplored planet. It stars Jack Klugman. who was in, I think, 3 other Twilight Zone episodes, one of my favorite Twilight Zone actors. And they, as they're moving along, I'm sorry, as they're exploring the planet, they encounter dead bodies. And it turns out the dead bodies are literally themselves. So we kick into the mystery of like, are we dead? What's going on here? And this episode kicks around a lot of different ideas, like what's actually going on here. Is this some sort of like a psychological ploy? I think is one of the things that are kicked around as an idea. Jack Klugman's character throws out a few theories. But Death Ship is one of my favorites. I love this episode a whole lot. I didn't get a chance to review this one. I think it's the only one I've done so far from season 4.
And his review is amazing of this.
Yeah.
Like, totally. If you guys like, scripted format, watch that review. It's the best review on YouTube for that episode.
Yeah. This was a fun one. I think was this a Matheson episode, I believe, as well.
Yes, it was.
So yeah, there was a lot going on in this one. I really didn't feel in terms of like, like the hour did not. This is one of my favorite episodes actually of the season.
I would agree.
It's up there. It definitely it felt like the hour worked in this case. I would say that.
Yes, I agree. I think the whole like theme and idea of this episode is another one I really, really enjoy. Like the Twilight Zone did this a lot. 3 astronauts, Elegy is one that they always love doing 3 astronauts. Like that's like a classic Twilight Zone trope. And to have Klugman as the lead, who of course, like you said, he was in The Game of Pool and Praise of Pip and Passage for Trumpet. He was a Twilight Zone. He's like, if Burgess Meredith is the most like remembered big actor from this show, I would say Jack Klugman would be right behind him. And Jack Klugman does a really good job in this. And I just like the idea of this. See these 3 astronauts, they land, they find another crash ship, they get in there and they find their own dead bodies.
Yeah.
And then the rest of this episode is kind of them arguing about, well, okay, is it really us? Are we really dead? And they have these fantastic throwback sequences where these people are kind of remembering their times on Earth. One of them, he's going home to see his wife and he runs into this guy who's like a local fisherman. And, he gets there and she's away to go to his funeral. And then they kind of snap him out of it. Really effective. And the best scene in this is when the other guy, the second in command, he goes back and his wife and kid had actually been killed in an accident. Yeah. And they're having this picnic lunch on like right on the water.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And Klugman just comes out of the bushes. He's like, you need to come back.
Yeah.
I'm not coming back, and they have this argument. And man, like the scope of those scenes, those outdoor scenes where these guys are trying to remember the better times of their life, so profound to me, because that's what I think people, I've never died before, but I think these are the things that will come back to you before death. And I think this is them having these daydreams of, I wish I was here. I wish I was somewhere better before I kicked the bucket. Yet they do here. And I don't know. I think this is the first like masterpiece of season 4. I really, really love this episode. I think it's
I'm glad you brought up those scenes too, where he goes back and he sees his daughter and he sees his wife. The acting in those, it's just on a guy's face alone, the emotion in his face when he sees his daughter. They don't spell it out for you what exactly is happening, but you get the impression of what's happening because of the way he reacts. It's gut-wrenching. It's completely emotional when he sees his daughter. It's like, oh man, this is tough to watch. It's beautiful, but it's tough to watch. And when they get pulled out of it, it's all the more tragic. And so this episode works for me. It's like a psychological horror. It's like a cosmic horror and it doesn't end well either. Yet I love it, but I mean, it doesn't. I don't need happy endings all the time for something, to love it. This doesn't necessarily have a happy ending. It has a pretty grim ending, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's almost like a blue ball ending, because they say it. They're like, yo, we're dead. And that's very early on in the episode.
Yeah.
But it's all the idea of the Jack Klugman character who is in the utmost denial. We're not dead. How are we talking about this? How did we go in there? How did we take off? How did we come back down? And he refuses. Rod Serling says the picture of a man that refuses to see, what is really there, including his own death. And, he even holds them back from moving on into the afterlife, which is true horror.
That's the worst part of this, right? Is that it seems so unfair. Like, I'd like to hope that maybe this isn't really those guys, but it seems like it really is. That's the point of it, right? That he's literally holding these other two poor innocent souls who are ready to go. They're ready to move on. He keeps pulling them back.
Yes.
That's
Pulling
awful.
them back from their daydreams and their
Yeah,
fantasies
yeah,
and their wives and their kids and
yeah,
the better times, and he will not let them move
yeah.
on. And in fact, if you notice, when Ross Martin, he's the second command, I wanted to
Thank
make
you.
sure I
Yeah,
got
the
his name.
names. Yeah,
Ross Martin, they can't find him at one point. They're like, where'd he go?
yeah,
He got away, but Klugman somehow finds him in his daydream and drags him back
yeah.
into their unfortunate nightmarish reality. To me, it's just horror done right, and Richard Madsen does such a good job writing this episode. And I love the closing narration. You nailed this in the episode where you reviewed this on your channel. Picture of a man who will not see anything he does not choose to see, including his own death. A man of such indomitable will that even the two men beneath his command are not allowed to see the truth, which truth is they are no longer among the living, that the movements they make, the words they speak, and all have been made spoken countless times before, and will be made spoken countless times again, perhaps even into eternity. Picture of a latter-day Flying Dutchman sailing into the Twilight Zone.
And
That's one of my favorite closing narrations ever, man. I love it.
Oh, it's awesome. You get the Flying Dutchman reference. It spells it out, but it still works so well, man. Yeah, and I think this is one of the ones that I think it was based on a short story, so they did have to expand it a bit, but it doesn't feel that way when you're watching it. And one last thing I'll say on it, but Jack Klugman is usually such a likable guy, right? And here it's like I want to root for this guy only because I love him from previous episodes, and he's almost always it's just something about this actor. Maybe it's because when I was a kid I used to even see him on an old show called Odd Couple. He was just sort of a likable guy, right? So, but here he is, and he's not a monster per se. I understand his point of view, but yeah, it's tough to root for him here because he's wrong. And
Yeah,
like,
I think it's funny when it starts. You like him, you know. You don't dislike. It's as it goes on where you're like, oh man, let them go. Like, what do you?
So smart casting in a way, right? By casting Jack Klugman as opposed to maybe another person who would have played it almost villainous or something like that. Then it would have come off as one note. So again, smart casting. We're going for like a likable actor who sort of, we see he's maybe not as likable as it seems as the show progresses.
I agree wholeheartedly. Fun fact, as we're on Jack Klugman.
Yeah.
Jack Klugman considered this the worst episode he was in. Which
man, wow, that's weird. You know what? For my money, he like even I love the whole 40 episodes that he was in. But if that's his thoughts, that's his thoughts. It is what it is. Fair enough. Whereas with Burgess Meredith, I feel like there were a few in there that like you know what I mean. But
Mr. Dingle the Strong, anybody?
That's what, yeah.
John Steele is in the house. John Steele, welcome to the Graveyard. You're only a true play if you can name an episode from every season where they wear pajamas, Grande. Well, I don't know if I could do that. You want me to explain what happens in death? Just ask. Okay, so we've got a modern day Flying Dutchman in the house.
All right, there we
go. That
go.
ep gives me the Truman Show vibes for some reason. Which one? Truman Show vibes.
Let's see. I'm trying to think.
That ship? Not that ship, right?
I'm trying to think. Well, it wouldn't be Mute. We can go back. We didn't get too far, right? Let's see. We have In His Image. We have 30 Fathom Grave. We went over, right?
Maybe Valley of the Shadow.
Valley of the Shadow. The small town vibe. Maybe Valley of the Shadow because
they're all in on it.
Like everybody's in on it. You get this weird vibe where everybody kind of wants him to go away. But maybe that. We'll see if he wants to mention it.
No, please do tell us, Mr. Steele. Terrence is in the house. Hi, Anthony. Hi, Grande. Thumbs up. Thank you, Terrence. Appreciate that, man.
There we go.
Good brother Tom is in the house. Paris with When the Sky Was Open in season 1. Yeah. Dude, I love the When the Sky Was Open. I think that's another classic from season 1.
Yeah.
Not much of a fan of season 4. Glad they went back to the half-hour format. I would agree with that. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
He's in some of the best episodes. Yeah, I love Klugman, man. He does a great job. Yes. I believe it's A World of Difference has some Truman Show vibes. Absolutely. Yeah. The Valley Ups. Okay. Very cool. I think it's my turn, right, to present one of these. I think
sure. Yeah. I think so.
To episode. Oh boy. Episode number 7. This one debuted on Valentine's Day of 1963. Fitting enough because this is like more of a love episode. This is Anne Francis in Jezebel. Yes, a girl strikes a bargain with a witch to win a young man's heart. Yes, also starring James Best. This one, man, this was one of the ones that I didn't remember much of, and I'm thrilled I rewatched it because I really kind of grew a liking for this one.
Oh my
And
god.
it's a weird one. It's more of a folk horror love story, which is very interesting for the Twilight Zone. And weirdest thing of this, throughout it, they play a song
Yeah.
like called Jezebel, and it's a beautiful song. And this is also of interesting note, the only episode of the entire series that did not have a closing narration. I thought that was
Yes.
interesting.
True. Geez, it's yet another episode where like we get a wild animal showing up though,
Yeah,
right? And I always love that. There's something that was whenever Twilight Zone used like these wild animals, it was always freaking haunting. Like, it was always something creepy about it. But yeah, so this one I did like this one. This one was good. I was curious if you would like this one or not because from what I've seen online, like Reddit or a few sites like that, this it seems like this isn't a fan favorite at all.
it's hated. It's pretty
Yeah,
hated. Yeah.
this isn't a fan favorite at all. I think I landed on a C with this one, but still, it's like a solid C, maybe even like C plus or something like that. But only because I it's not an A for me, it's not a B, so like I land on a C. This one, there's it feels like maybe there was a half hour here, maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
I would agree. It is a little bit padded, and I mean that's a theme with this season. But I
Mm,
think I don't know. Maybe just I liked the love story, and I really liked
okay.
the performances. I like Anne Francis. I think she's great.
Yeah.
She's also in the After Hours, which is
Yes.
a
Okay.
series classic from
Yeah.
season one.
There's a ton of actors that show up in this season where they're all like, "Oh, this guy, oh her." Oh, there's a lot of familiar faces. That's actually another reason too. It's just fun to go through this to season four. I think there's like a lot of fun and familiar faces just showing up
I
again. So
think
that
I
happens a lot
think
on
the
Twilight Zone.
love interest in this is Jeff Myrtlebank, the guy that comes out of
Okay.
the coffin from season three's The Last
Okay.
That's Jeff
Wow,
Myrtlebank.
wow. I covered recently like Hocus Pocus and Frisbee, and one of the people that were in the store who was just like one of Frisbee's friends or whatever, he shows up. He showed up in the previous episode we discussed, Valley of the Shadow or something like that. He shows up in that. He's one of the elders or something like that. So yeah, you see all these familiar faces. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, no, and that's how they'd use actors back then. Like
Yeah,
Robert
yeah.
McCord is in a ton of Twilight Zone episodes. He never was the lead. You know,
Actors of
it's
the time. Yeah.
yeah. I really like this one though. I don't know. There's
Okay.
maybe because I recently did a show on folk horror like a couple months
Okay.
ago, and I like the idea of the Twilight Zone trying folk horror. Like, wow, very interesting.
Yeah.
And I like the love story. It's Jess Bell, who played by Anne Francis, and the guy that she's in love with, he falls in love with somebody else. So she goes to this witch doctor. I don't have money. I don't have this, that, or the other. She says, "Listen, if you give me your soul and your body and everything else, I will grant you the man that you want to be with." And
Mhm.
she does at the cost of every night at midnight.
Yeah.
She turns
Yeah.
into this sort of like, I guess, leopard or cheetah or just wild cat animal. I'm not sure what it was supposed to be, but I like the idea of that. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
old school. The whole Wolfman idea of when the clock strikes midnight or the moon is full, and
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit sappy, but I kind of dug this one. This is a different weird one that I
Yeah.
liked for being different weird as
Okay.
opposed
Fair
to like
enough.
a
Fair
mute.
enough.
But yeah, no, I don't know. Did you like the music integral like
Yeah. Oh,
parts?
yeah, I had no issues with that. I think for me, it just felt like it ran a bit long overall, and that sort of hurt it. In this case, I was feeling it. I think that's what the problem is with it. I think that just the runtime was hurting this one. I don't know. I think that I feel like there's a half. I feel like there's a maybe an awesome half-hour episode here. I
Yes.
don't know, but so yeah, we'll have to. I guess this is our first.
No, never, never. This is only positive vibes. But no, I'll be honest with you. When I turned it on, I was expecting to be
I'm
like,
curious about your grade on this one, then.
I was like shaking my head when I put it on, and like
Yeah.
about 10 minutes in, I was like, I'm into this.
Oh,
And
because of the hate,
I
right? Yeah. Oh no, I felt the same way. I'm like, this is not that bad. It's not. It's all right. So I'm not in love with it, but it's not that bad. It seems fine. It's much better than 1,000 other things out there for sure.
yeah, no, and I don't know. It just maybe the uses of the music in between,
Yeah.
and there's a really nice shot when the two women are talking in the field, and it's just a great wide shot of them. And I don't know, like the folk horror and adding the landscape to it, and I don't know. I think that was something that the Twilight Zone never really did much. I mean, this is really
Yeah.
the only one that has a folk horror theme to it.
True,
And I
true.
don't know. I think I like Anne Francis a lot as an actress. I think she does a good job. She's like those classic, like very memorable eyes. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I feel like Lucio Fulci would have loved to work with Anne Francis in a perfect world. But I don't know. I like this one. You're going to probably think I'm nuts. I'm going to probably say a weak A. I like this one.
Wow. All right then. All right. So where are we gonna land on like a B, I guess, in between here then,
So
right?
you gave this a C or a
Yeah,
D?
I'm gonna go with like a C, C plus ish or something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if you go C, I'll go like A minus. So we'll meet in the middle, like a solid B,
Yeah. That sounds fair. Yeah.
which I think is fair. I don't know. I don't know. This, in my opinion,
Yeah, hey, on a rewatch, I might end up liking this one a lot too. That's why I usually like before I review these, like sometimes I'll remember, I'm like, I don't remember liking this one, or I remember loving this. Then I rewatch it, and sometimes I'll kind of swing the other way. So we'll see what happens. Maybe by the time comes, whenever the heck I get to like review this or whatever, and I dive into it like one more time, do a fresh rewatch. Maybe we'll change on it. But for
yeah,
right now, I think. But where I am now, I think that's where I am with them. Unfortunately, yeah.
I hear you completely.
Although,
No,
like,
and
it's not like a bad C though. It's definitely not like a C. Ignore. It's definitely like that. Not that. It's
yeah,
leaning more
no,
towards
it's
the
better than some shit to
Oh
come. I
God,
mean,
yes.
we have a couple of these last ones here that I'm like, oh man, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I've noticed that some of the original the episode titles later become names of famous TV series. I Dream of Jeannie and The Fugitive. I Dream of Junie. When we get there, probably missed you mention it, but the one that stands out is the Robert Duvall Dolls. We're gonna get there very soon. I think it's not even. It might even be the next one. I don't know if it's the next one or the one after, but it's very close.
No, it's
Tales from the
next.
Dark Side. Love The Moth with Debbie Harry, dude. I love that episode where well, I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I love that episode too. John Steele, great pick. Anne Francis was also in the sci-fi classic The Forbidden Planet. Yeah, no, totally. We love Anne Francis. Miniature, yes, we're gonna get there. That's episode 9, I think. Which, by the way, Grande, have you ever consider doing Tales from the Dark Side reviews? I did an episode where I did my top 13, but I would love to do it in this format where I go season by season, which I am having a great time doing this, by the way. Once again, thank you, Anthony, for coming on.
Thank you.
John Steele, if you're a Tales from the Dark Side fan, John Steele, we could totally do a season of Tales from the Dark Side one of these days. That would be a cool episode to do. Always open to doing more stuff like this. I haven't done enough television, so this is kind of why I like doing this here tonight. But I think you got the next episode here to introduce to us.
Let me double check because I don't want to say the wrong.
I think yeah, I'm doing the odds, you're doing the evens, I think.
Yeah, Miniature, episode 8. So this one, Robert Duvall stars as. Geez, he's almost like a Norman Bates type guy in this. Let me go to the description. No, just let's see. What were we saying? The story centers on a man's obsession with a dollhouse whose figure seems to be alive. Yeah, this one is this is a very good one. This is very young Robert Duvall from Godfather fame, Godfather 1 and 2 and a bunch of other movies, but that's the one I mainly know him from.
Of course.
He basically falls for a little figure, a little doll from a museum, and he believes her to be real. And a lot of this episode plays out with like, is she real? Is she not real? I mean, it's Twilight Zone, so we sort of kind of know where this is gonna go, but all the same, a big chunk of this episode is also just his family and friends sort of trying to bring him back to something close to normal. Is that would you agree with that? Where they're trying to reel him in because he has some problems, and I don't want to be like offensive here or say anything offensive potentially, but he obviously has some psychological issues, the character. So this is a very good episode. It was an awesome performance to me from Robert Duvall. I'm a fan of this episode. I'm guessing you are, but I guess we'll see in a second when I shut the heck up. But this is also going to be an easy 8 for me. I think Miniature.
I really like this one too, and I think that you nailed a lot of things. I think this one was really focusing on the horrors of being introverted. Yes. And that's another thing that, again, like I talked about before, like it's easy for small towns to get lost when we're talking about Hitler and brutality and stuff like this, the horrors of being an introvert. Here's Robert Duvall's character, and Robert Duvall, I agree. I think of him in The Godfather is the, no one was hurt, I swear, I think he's such a great charismatic actor. But for him to play this type of role against type, brilliant performance it is. Of this guy that's, he doesn't have any real friends. He doesn't have any girlfriends. The mother is very overbearing. Like, let me take your shoes off, and he's,
it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. Some of these scenes, aren't they? Like it just feels awkward, but not in an unwatchable way, I should say. Like just to clarify it, you just sort of feel bad for this guy.
Yes, and the only moments of his life where he finds companionship and happiness is when he goes to this museum and sees this little woman, like, that's a figure to us, but to him it's a woman playing a piano. Now, fun
Mhm.
fact, the woman playing the piano, the actress, is the wife of the legendary Sidney Pollack. They were married for 50 plus years until his death in 2018. So crazy enough, that's Sidney Pollack's wife randomly showing up in this episode with no lines. But to me, it's such a brilliant tackling of the idea of introvertedness because, let's face it, there is a lot of that in the world and
Mhm.
people that do not have friends and look for friends in weird places. And Robert Duvall looks for it in this little house, this little dollhouse,
Yeah.
this miniature, if you will. I thought that was such a brilliant idea, and he does a great job. There are my only, like, this would be an S if this one was probably a half hour. They have so many points in this episode where they're trying to hook him up with this woman. To me, that only needed to be like one scene. Yeah,
Okay,
like,
fair enough. Fair enough. I could see that. I think I like that stuff. Maybe a little bit more than you, but yeah, I could. Yeah, that could have been trimmed. I guess if anything, if it's like, hey, what do you want to trim? Yeah, fair enough. You
like
could.
just a bad, like maybe one bad date and that's it. Like, because
We get the point. We get the
yeah, they
point.
try it again, and it's like, all right, like he doesn't like her. Like, can we just move on to the shit? I don't know. Maybe that was padding again. Like, well, I'm
Yeah.
going on another thing, and they at the end they're like, oh, let's look for him under the bed. I'm like, you think this guy's under the bed after all this? You know where this guy is, man. Like, but I do love. To me, that the last shot is the classic. I love the twist ending, and maybe you could see it coming from a mile
Yeah,
away.
I
I
don't
love.
mind. I don't mind. Sometimes it's predictable, right? But if it's good, it's good.
It is, and it's a
It's
happy
good.
ending, which I like. The person, the guard sees, looks in, and he smiles. And Rod Serling's like, the guard never said to anybody what he saw because he
Yes.
knew they
Yeah.
wouldn't believe him. But it's nice. He got his companionship. He got to be with the person he loved. Is it
Yeah.
weird to everybody else?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But to him, it was a happy ending. And who are we to judge who you fall in
Yeah.
love with?
Yeah.
And I thought
Especially
it
in the
was a
Twilight
really.
Zone of all places.
Yeah, I don't know. I really like this one. Duvall steals it. One of my
Yeah.
favorite performances. We put him as the thumbnail. And you
Yeah.
did actually. So
Had
thank you
to.
for making the thumbnail. I stink at it.
Yeah.
But no, I like this one a lot. I'm gonna say a strong A as well.
Yeah, same here. Same here.
Very
Easily.
solid episode. Please, I love it. Let's do it. Dude, totally. Yeah, no. Robert Simeone's in the house. It's my man, the legend John Grande. What's up, Robert? Welcome to the Graveyard Man. Duvall just did this right after How to Kill a Mockingbird,
Oh,
if I am not mistaken. Really? I did not know that. Wow. Isn't
okay.
that
Cool.
crazy, man? He
I
had
love the
quite the
comments.
career.
That's because everybody comes in with the info and the trivia. I love it.
It's a fun
Such an
thing of
awesome
doing live.
format, live streaming, man.
Yeah. There's an alternate version of this from the 80s where some of the scenes are in color. Really? I've
That's
not
right. I think I've been meaning to read up on that. But yeah, but they colorized this or something. I have no idea how well it worked out. But yeah, they colorized this at some point. I don't know why. I'd have to look into it.
Why this particular one? I
Good
wonder.
question. I don't know. I
Like,
have to look into
actually,
it.
you're probably laughing at me. If there's one I would colorize, it'd be Jezebel because it's the
Yeah.
landscape of the folklore. I think that would be beautiful if you
Yeah.
colorize that, or maybe
Yeah.
even Death Ship with when they're having the like hallucinations. I think that
True.
stuff
True.
beautiful. The cinematographer did a wonderful job. William Wyndham, who appeared in To Kill a Mockingbird, was also in the episode 5 Characters in Search and Exit. One of my a top 5 episode
Yeah.
for me. I love that one. But yeah, no, that is Miniature. That was season 4, episode 8. Now moving
Yes.
on to episode 9 of season
Nice.
4. Oh boy,
Oh, you
get a
gotta
little
go.
Burgess Meredith in here. This is Printer's Devil, which debuted on February the 28th, 1963. A desperate newspaper editor hires the devil, played by Burgess Meredith, to save his failing business. Now, another great performance here. I think, back-to-back episodes, we get great performances from actors that were very big, in Duvall and now Meredith. But this one, I think this is just a fantastic idea. And this one works well for the hour long. Would you say so?
Definitely, and yeah, and as far as even being an idea, even though it's an idea we've seen before or whatever with the devil, we're gonna make a deal with the devil and it's not gonna work out. It still freaking works brilliantly here. Burgess Meredith steals the show, but the supporting characters are great here too, right? Like the person who's in charge of the newspaper and his I think it's his wife in the episode.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, they're great too. But yeah, this is a great episode, man. I love everything about this one. Burgess Meredith definitely steals the show. There's like he comes in as sort of this unassuming little person on the side of the road, I believe, right? So the way he's introduced is also great. But there's a lot to like in this one, man. Definitely. I'm a fan of this one.
I am too, and I think I like the whole idea of the devil being a newspaper writer and making all these things happen, and then of course he's going to be the first one in on the scoop because he caused it. So that whole ideology I thought was really fun.
Yeah, it's a fun idea. Yeah, so we've seen the idea before, but here's an example of it being a fun idea. But what are they doing with it? What are they doing with the fun idea? Well, they're having they're doing some interesting things with it, right? We're using the newspaper thing, and he's making the news happen and then reporting on it. That's great.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a fun episode. Burgess Meredith gives a wonderful performance. I think this is one that did fit the hour-long format well. And I don't know. I think overall, this is just like a fun episode of season 4. Like, this is definitely one, like, if I'm marathoning them or I want to, if I'm in the mood for season 4, this is one of the first ones I grab for. I think, is it the best Burgess Meredith episode? I don't know about that. I would probably lean towards the Obsolete Man. And then I don't know if I'd go with this over like Time Enough at Last. It's close. Time Enough at Last probably is one of the best endings ever. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's always tough to get away from that one. That ending is so iconic, and it just kind of pops it right into like the #1 spot. Even though I think I'm like you, where I almost lean toward Obsolete Man as being like a favorite of all the Burgess Meredith episodes. But this one's up there too. Jeez, it's a tough pick. But
yeah,
we know which one it isn't when it comes to Burgess.
Yeah, it's not Mr. Dingle the Strong. Even though Mr. Dingle the Strong is funny, it's nowhere near as this.
That episode's like a great example of like, look, it is what it is, and you're either gonna go with it or you're not, and that's an episode that it is what it is.
Yeah, that's a weird one with the 2 aliens they bring in. It's very
I don't
weird.
know, like, yeah, I don't want to go off track to it, but like, some of the hokey looking alien, like I kind of love it. I find like a charm in all of that stuff. I don't.
I do too. I don't know. I have a sense of humor like that. I'm the same way. Like,
I know it is what it is. We'll leave it at that, so I don't go.
Absolutely, but Printer's Devil, I'm gonna give a strong A. I don't know where you're gonna fall in.
Same here.
Strong A. Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Seek out that version if possible. Yeah, totally. I would actually be interested to see that. Burgess M in at least 3 to do with printed media. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Of course. Time Enough at Last, Printer's Devil, and Obsolete Man. They all have something to do with like printed media. That's an interesting way to look at it. If you guys ever watched the show called Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, I have seen that anthology series, the early 2000s. There were some Twilight Zone like episodes. There was an episode called The Doll. I remember that show. That was actually a very interesting idea. For a TV show. Printer's Devil is the darker version of It's a Wonderful Life, devil instead of an angel. Wow, I didn't think of it that way. That's pretty interesting. They also did, I think they remade this for Tales from the Dark Side. I think they did a remake of the half-hour format, and I remember when I first saw this, I was right away, I broke up the Tales from the Dark Side. I was like, I want to see how this works in a half hour. And it worked, but this is a much better episode. I think Burgess Meredith is great. Where a teacher is visited by a girl called Ashley who says that she has her doll and it is sort of familiar to the episode Nightmare as a Child. Another underrated one.
Yes.
But Printer's Devil, very solid episode. If you want to introduce the next one, though, go for it, brother.
Sure. Just to double check too, we're on No Time Like the Past?
Yes, episode 10.
All right, let's see. Okay. So let's see. We have a man, I believe, played by Dana Andrews, travels backward in time and tries to change events surrounding Hiroshima, Hitler, and the Lusitania. Okay, boy, that's a bit of like a bare bones description because the back end of this episode. All right, so just it's about a man who travels back in time and he wants to change these tragedies in the past. I do like this one. Like, he's unable to really change anything. It seems like everything's pretty locked down one way or the other. He's unable to change things. So he sort of settles in a simpler time, but he still returns to this idea of trying to make changes to the past. And I guess, spoiler alert, he again realizes you just can't change the past. He ends up going back to the future and, or back to the present, I should say, and deciding I'm just going to try to make the future the best I possibly can. So there's a really nice message here. I am a fan of this episode. There's some great dialogue on war that comes at one point in this episode, if you recall, between, I think it's one of the neighbors or one of the townspeople when our character is settled back in the olden times. I can't forget. I forget what year he landed in. Do you recall?
I think 1881.
Okay, so he's back in the 1880s, right? And there's this great conversation at the dinner table between the horrors of war. And again, I'm not sure if did Rod Serling write this one?
I actually don't know.
Yeah, that one I'd have to look up. Fair enough. But anyway, some great dialogue and great writing in that one. I am a fan of this episode. I'd probably throw it at like a solid B for me.
Yeah, no, this is a weird one for me because it's almost like two different episodes. And I think that's, again, it would probably be, by the way, this was written by Rod Serling. I just
okay. The dialogue, boy, you can always tell Rod Serling's dialogue. I don't know. But yes. maybe it's possible other writers, when they were on the show, they were trying to, get that Rod Serling.
Yeah, it's very rare you're going to see Matheson or Beaumont go political.
Yeah,
Rod Serling, there's always that voice in the back where it's like, okay, I'm trying to make this message too,
Yeah, and especially in the dialogue on war that I'm bringing up, Rod Serling had a lot to say about that, obviously. But
this episode, I almost think it would have worked better as two different half-hour episodes. The first half, I like the idea of going back into time, trying to change things. You can't change the past. He tries to assassinate Hitler, and then he's distracted by a maid. Okay. I would think that of all the fucking times to be distracted by a maid.
Brings me to why it's not an A for me. I do think there's a better half-hour version of this, to be fair. Like maybe they could have, has to be some way to streamline those segments, right, of him trying to change the past. I guess we get a lot of that, right, with these episodes where the meat of it is sort of duplicated, so that we can reach the 1 hour point.
Yeah,
so going to the past and it doesn't work, and he goes to the past and it doesn't work, and he goes to. I liked it anyway. It kind of worked for me overall, but it does drag it down a bit. I guess maybe it dragged it down a bit more for you.
I guess so. I think the first half of this, it's the more sci-fi interesting part, but I think the ending of it is much better when he decides, I want to live before all these tragedies happen in the 1880s. Then I think they're going to try to assassinate. Is it Garfield? James A. Garfield was the president in 1881, and he wants to stop it, and he can't because he can't. They tell him don't change anything. Okay, but I don't know. I part of me likes the second half of this episode better as a whole, but I think the first half of it is the more sci-fi Twilight Zone-esque. It's weird. It feels like two different episodes to me. And to me, you could cut it in half and it's completely unrelated. So this is one that to me that does suffer from the season 4 hour-long format. It's solid. The idea is solid, but is this one I would go back and rewatch in a marathon? No, honestly, it's very repetitive. I think I don't think it's bad, as we're going to get to a couple bad ones coming up. This one, I actually think is very average to below average. I'm going to go like a C- on this one.
All right, fair enough. Sure.
And where did you go? What did you say? B?
Oh, I think on this one I had it as a B. So I was a bit more of a fan of this one than you were.
Yes, exactly. So with definitely C, B in that range there. Doesn't he try to alter things? Yep. Yes. This one always felt it needed more. Great point. Yeah, no, it's weird. I don't know. Part of me thinks that it would have been cool. You could have just done an episode where somebody had a time machine and said, I'm sick of the reality and all the wars and the fighting. I want to go back to when none of that existed. And maybe went back to a time and then runs into it anyway. It's like, no matter what. And that would be Rod Serling.
Him literally trying and failing like 2-3 times. Okay, yeah. And there's your half hour.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I don't know. This maybe. Maybe I'm wrong though. I don't know. The Upside Dan is in the house. I'm not. Oh, he's one of your buddies. Okay, Upside Dan is in the house. Welcome to the graveyard. There's a scene in this episode where he tries to kill Hitler. Yeah, and he's distracted by a maid and doesn't kill Hitler. Like, what the heck? I don't know. I think that was weird. Wasn't Garfield killed anyways in the end? Yes. He hears, he sees it in the paper and he's like, oh, I could save him. He's like, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to do anything. And that's it. And it's just like, I don't know. Like, kind of middle of the road, a little bit below average for me. But I can get the next one up here. Let's see.
The Parallel.
Yes, season 4, episode 11, debuted on March the 14th, 1963. An astronaut played by Steve Forrest arrives in a world much like his own, except for a few small differences. This is one that I just have a little bit of a past with. I remember years ago when they did the marathons of these, they would only show the hour-long ones at like 3 or 4 in the morning on Sci-Fi Channel. And this was one I watched the first 15 minutes of, fell asleep. And for years, I was like, I hope they show it again. I want to see the rest of it because it really had me intrigued. I was just tired because of what time it was. And it was one of those, when I got this box set, I was the first one I watched. It was like, I've got to watch. And funny enough, it's on the back of that's
Oh,
from the
wow.
parallel,
Wow. Yeah.
which is crazy. And I was like, oh my God, I gotta watch this one. It's solid. I don't think it's a masterpiece or a classic or anything, but I like the idea of it. This is one that, like, I don't even know if it knew where it was going personally. But what do you think? What do you think about this one?
No, I think I'm liking this one too a bit more than you. I like the concept of it. I like the mystery aspect where he comes back. I guess it's not much of a mystery. We could figure out what's going on with the parallel. It's right there in the title. So
Yes.
we're obviously going into a bit of like a multiverse or an alternate universe type thing. But I like the way it played out between him and the family and this slow realization. Oh man, I'm in the wrong universe. It happened again. All right, didn't happen again. So that stuff was fun with me, and I like that, like, his daughter eventually stops sort of speaking with him and feels weird with him because she's like, "You're not my real dad," and then it creates all this stuff between him and the wife, who's not really his wife. There's some fun mystery there to go through, and then there's some fun human interactions that we get to see. And then it's like we get into like, well, is he going to get home? Can he get home safely? Is this going to end happily? It does, like, I guess, well, it does. So he does make it home. But here's one thing I really liked about it. It was so subtle. Like when he comes back, when he returns to Earth, and he goes home. And I think there's a moment where, like, there's a fence or there's not a fence. And he notices that, and it's such a fun little subtle moment. And I my first time watching this, this wasn't an episode I was very familiar with. I think I've only seen it once, and I think I saw it a few months back. And I found myself tempted to just rewind it and be like, wait a minute, was there a fence? I'm like, no. Let me just do what the show. Let me do what the show wants. I'm not going to cheat and rewind it and see if there was a fence there or not a fence there. I think that's what the point was. That whether or not there was a fence there, but that lets us know, hey, there's something up here. And then from there, of course, I think we see that we learn, like, oh, I believe his rank has changed, so we learn a way to, that it's a different world. I went along with all of that. I liked all of that stuff. So all of that stuff was working for me. This one would lean toward an A for me, actually. I thought it was like a fun sci-fi related episode. For me, it worked on that level.
Yes, it's I think the idea is like an S idea. I just don't know about the execution. Like,
fair enough.
I like certain things. Like, I like when he's, oh, I don't take sugar in my coffee, and the little girl knows that it's not him, or even the subtleties of when he kisses his wife.
Yeah.
She looks back like weird, like, you're not who I remember you being. I like that stuff's really well done. I don't know. Part of me thinks that instead of just small differences, maybe they could have done a little bit bigger differences, where it's like, maybe, I don't know, that might be a nitpick, or like, if you got an hour to play with, maybe go, halfway through the episode, he tries to get back and goes into an even further parallel.
Yeah.
And
that's a thought too.
Yeah,
that's a thought too. So in this case, would you also maybe argue that it's maybe yet another one that maybe a half an hour would have been better here?
No, actually, I do think the hour probably was the best idea. I
go bigger with the parallel. Go bigger with it.
Yeah,
like maybe they could have even started off small and then just got bigger along the way, like with just even like huger differences. It doesn't really ramp up. Tension doesn't really get ramped up. Like, there isn't some major difference that comes along that it's like, oh my God, I need to leave because it turns out the whole planet's going to explode. Everything just seems like, for all intents and purposes, he could probably stay here.
Yes, it's mellow. I think that's
different.
You're right. That's probably my biggest problem. There's no sense of urgency in this episode. It's just kind of,
we don't ramp things up dramatically, I guess. It just it sits and it stays. I guess it still worked for me overall. But that's a valid criticism. Yeah, for sure.
No, I don't know. Not a bad one for me. Like, like a solid B. Nothing great, but nothing bad either.
I go with like an A-, I'd say, in this case. So
that's fair. Maybe it was one of those that my anticipation of all those years of not seeing it, like, I was like, I'm gonna find a lost classic, and I was like, okay, like, good, but maybe I wanted more. But maybe that was just expectations. Fever D, man. New York.
A lot of New Yorkers up in here tonight.
Hell yeah. This is the Blu-ray set. Got this on Twilight Zone Day for like $38, I think. So highly recommend. There was a TV show in the 1990s I remember watching called Spellbinder. There was a main protagonist in a parallel dimension where the Industrial Revolution never existed. Okay, that's interesting. You have the misfortune, I think, of introducing our next episode.
Oh boy, let's see where we are.
Oh boy.
No. All right, I Dream of Jeannie. Oh God. Okay. Let's see. A man considers several possibilities when he is offered one wish by a genie in a magic lamp, with Jack Albertson in the lead. This episode is a mess. Not looking forward to reviewing this one. Wow, where to start? All right, so we have the genie in a bottle idea. Now the genie in this I liked a lot. I didn't get to look it up, but I could swear the genie is the grandpa from.
It's Jack Albertson.
It is okay. Okay, well, there we go. Jack Albertson. Thank you. Okay, so there we go. This isn't a parallel universe for me.
No, it's
okay. Let's just talk about the paralleling. Okay, no, we'll talk about I Dream of Genie. All right, so yeah, we have this idea of a genie in a bottle. You don't get 3 wishes, you only get 1 because previous people have been abusing it. It's like, okay, but that sort of forces our narrative into like, all right, so what's my 1 wish gonna be? That's kind of an interesting idea, but then the way it's played out for me, this is where it kind of falls apart because it's the main character who's kind of like a loser, and he daydreams. What would I do if I had? What would I do with money? I think is one of the things, right? What would I do if my wife, if I was married to he has a crush on someone who works in his office? What would it be like if I was married to her, but she was a celebrity? And I think the last one is what would I do if I was a rich tycoon? That has to do with him having money. And I think one of his other daydreams, or what would I do if I was president? And all of his fantasies are bad. And he ends up on a losing end in all of them. And we circle back around, and he's like, "Well, what could I wish for?" And he just decides he's going to be the genie in the lamp.
It's fucking weird.
He looks at the screen. We wrap up, and I think I like the dog. There was a dog in this episode. The dog was nice. The dog was cute.
I don't like.
Oh my god! But this is a fun one to discuss, though, isn't it?
I mean,
I'm
guess
we're on the same page with it.
Yeah. I mean, I just like, it's one thing to have an because this show, okay, very rarely, but it did a few times. It tried comedy. I would say this is a comedic. It's trying to be comedic, as is the Bard.
Lighter and tone.
There, this like those 2 episodes kill this season for me when it comes to trying to be funny. They tried it with Buster Keaton in Once Upon a Time. They tried it with Carol Burnett and Cavender is Coming. Yeah. This show, for some reason, did not do comedy that well to me. To me, the best comedy episode, I don't know if you're a fan of this one, is Mr. Garrity and the Graves. I love that one. Late season 5 entry, very underspoken about one. Love how they do the comedy there.
I think well, we're going to be coming up on the Bard. So I don't know.
Bad. I don't know. To me, though, this is such a waste of Jack Albertson as the genie. He's literally in 1 scene. That's it, and he's great.
That's 1 strike right there. I agree. Yeah, it's in 1 scene. We had a genie in another episode, and he was good too. I forget who it was off the top of my head, but I believe was in the episode throughout. I believe he's in every scene. Jack Albertson in an hour runtimes in 1 scene. It feels weird. It feels like did they just get him for a day of shooting? Like maybe there's a story there in that case. In any case, just going off what we see here, it's just the episode doesn't come together. There's some stuff in the beginning of this episode in the office, in the workplace, where the woman comes in. And the whole office is flirting with her, and she's flirting back. And it's just all of this stuff that's going on where you're like, oh my God, this is dated. Let's just say it's dated. And I mean, I think it's her birthday, and one of the coworkers gives her lingerie, and it's just like, wow, this is like so much of Twilight Zone is awesome. We're huge fans. So much of it is timeless, and then you get this. Whatever, I'm not like offended and going to go crying about it, but it's just it's a little weird to watch this office place with a bunch of dudes just swarming this woman, and it just feels like an orgy is going to break out any second.
I wish it had, to be honest. Like,
would have at least been entertaining.
My genie, my wish for this episode: have a fucking orgy, do something, anything to fucking entertain me for fucking 10 minutes. Like, oh, we're gonna get Jack Albertson to play the genie in the episode called "I Dream of Genie," and he's in it for 2 minutes of the 50-minute runtime. You get this idiot daydreaming about, oh, what if I married this beautiful woman? Oh, of course she'd cheat on me. What? It's your wish. How could, if I wished for a woman to be with me, wouldn't one of the conditions of my wish I'd be like, oh, and by the way, make sure she doesn't cheat on me or leave me for another man. That's going to be a condition of the wish.
Because he's already adding conditions where he's like, not only does he want to be with her, she has to be an actress, right? And she has to be a celebrity. And so there are already like added parts to the wish. It's not streamlined. So yeah, like you just said, like add in the fact that, oh no, she can't cheat on me though. And she has to actually love me, as opposed to what happens here, where it's like he can't even get a kiss from her in his own daydream. He can't get a kiss. He goes to kiss her multiple times.
What kind of a daydream is that? Like what? Who the hell can't kiss somebody in a daydream? Like I understand if he's a loser in real life, but son of a bitch. And they give this whole, oh, you can't do 3 wishes. It's overdone. He gave him 3 wishes anyway, but it's all in his head. It's like, oh, I daydreamed about this one, and this one. And at the end, I will say this. If there is a fucking redeeming, the ending is a very interesting idea. That instead of wishing for wealth or love or anything, he wishes for it to be the genie. Interesting concept, but
does it I don't know.
It doesn't make sense here. Here's why it doesn't make sense.
Dots. Like, are we connected? Did we it's interesting, but did we connect the dots to get there?
No, because he's arguing the whole time that, these wishes are only used to manipulate people and horrible things happen. So your wish is to be someone who brings horrible things that can be manipulated and happen on people? Like what? Like what the heck?
Yeah.
F for me.
Same.
I don't like this episode.
I'm almost tempted to say A, just so you can go into one of your famous rants and just watch.
I think I already have. I wanted an orgy in this episode. All right.
I think that qualifies.
Grande, screw that casing for that set. I agree, it's cheap casing. Buy the smaller cases with room for a few. I had someone do the artwork for them as well. That's awesome.
Nice.
Jack Albertson later appeared on the show Chico and the Man, which had starred Sarah Michelle Gellar's father-in-law, Freddie Prinze Sr. Very cool. Love Chico and the Man. What would it be, your wish? Question for you both. Anthony, you first.
Just that, that we could just minus this episode out of the Twilight Zone and it would just not exist. Yeah.
I concur. I would either that or I would have wished for a nice, 7-on-1 gangbang in the fucking office. I think that would have been. And Jack Albertson could be commentary.
Can I change my wish now? No.
Fave Twilight Zone featuring the devil. Before you answer, Anthony did an episode on this, ranking the devil performances in all 4 respective episodes that it was on. Awesome stuff, John Still, if you haven't seen that episode. But favorite episode featuring the devil.
Yeah, no, I mean, I kind of like, geez, like looking back at it, because that was like a year ago. It's like I landed on, it's like I'm so conflicted. I go back and forth on these things. I make these videos, then I end up coming out conflicted. It's like we have Julie Newmar, and we have Burgess Meredith, and it's like Burgess Meredith.
But favorite episode? Would you say? Like he's saying,
the devil. Well, in that case, yeah, then it would be Printer's Devil. Then I'm going with Printer's Devil.
Believe it or not, I'm gonna go with the Howling Man. Because
I think we talked about that at one. Maybe it was a comment section or something, right? Howling Man. Yeah, that was good. They were all good. They were all they were all good episodes. There's one in there that's a little weak.
Yeah, I think that they did the devil fine in all 4 episodes.
Overall, yes.
Yeah. I like there's something about the Howling Man. There's just the gothic horror feel to it, and please release me. And I ask you, sir, is it wrong to kiss a girl under a tree? And that guy, he could have sold ice to an Eskimo. And then at the end, when he turns and the horns grow pillar to pillar,
that was done brilliantly. I love that effect.
When I was a kid, I was like, that's why I love horror. I love the Howling Man. To me, it's like an all-time classic Twilight Zone episode. One of the more underrated ones for me. And very cool on this Blu-ray set. They have some interviews, commentaries on that episode. I think it's super under talked about. That's my favorite one. F or what the fuck? Yeah, no. Escape Clause. That's the one that nobody really talks about.
That's the one, that's the one I was saying. Maybe that's the weaker of the bunch.
Yeah. I like the actor that play. He's like a larger man who plays.
I just wanted more of him in that episode. That was the problem. I feel like we get a little bit at with the genie in the episode we were just talking about, where it's like, hey, give me more of this character. This is your interesting character. Why are we getting so little of this person? Was he only able to shoot for one day? I don't know what the story is.
I agree, and I actually feel that way about a certain episode coming up that I wish we could have more of an actor or actress. It's a little spoiler, and it's a devil related. New to Anthony, that's a sub, dude. Awesome,
thank you, appreciate it. Thank you.
If you guys ever watch Pee-wee's Playhouse, the character of Jamba also granted one wish. Well, I'm sure it was better than the fucking wish this guy got. The Howling Man for favorite devil episode. I would agree, Tom. Completely agree. The actor and his demeanor really sells it. Yeah, you're the devil at your service. I like that episode too. That's a very cool one. Well, who's introducing next? Is it? Oh, this one's me. Okay. Oh, this worked out because I don't know about you.
Hey, all right, you got lucky.
This might be my favorite absolute episode of season 4. This is season 4, episode 13, The New Exhibit. Yes, after statues of famous murderers are discarded by a wax museum, they become murderously protective of their custodian. Yes, The New Exhibit starring Martin Balsam. In my opinion, the best performance of season 4. I know people are going to argue James Whitmore. I love James Whitmore, but to me, Martin Balsam is an actor that is far undersung, and I always thought he was fantastic. And to me, to get to see him as the lead here in this particular episode, fantastic. My favorite episode of the season. But what are your thoughts on this?
I'm pretty much there with you. Yeah, I mean, of course, I guess we both know him probably mainly from Psycho, right? But he's a supporting character here. He's almost doing a Norman Bates type thing in a way. He has a character that has some problems, but there's a lot of great stuff in this episode. First of all, it's straight horror, and I love whenever Twilight Zone went straight horror. I feel like there's not enough straight horror episodes. At least for me, it played as just straight horror. Does it feel like a Twilight Zone episode to you? Just curious.
I think what it really resembles is the time of what Psycho did to the landscape of the genre for film. Yeah. It's very Alfred Hitchcock-like.
Yeah.
It could easily be an Alfred Hitchcock Presents, which people remember.
Yeah, there you go. And I don't mean that as a bad point to it when I say could it not be a Twilight Zone. It is a Twilight Zone, and I love it. Yeah, but yeah, it's just there's a lot of fun stuff between him and the wife too. It's sort of subtle where she just wants them out of the basement, and he's like, no, but you'll learn to love them. It's gold. I love it. And it's left a little bit ambiguous, right? About like, hey, these things, are they really alive? Are they whacking people? Because there's a body count in this episode. It's a Twilight Zone with a body count.
It's a slasher. It's like a 60s slasher. And like, to me, the idea of getting Burke and Hare and Jack the Ripper. I love, to me, this episode opens brilliantly. You're in the Wax Museum and he's taking you on the tour. Yeah. And you hear about the notorious pasts and what causes a man to become a psychopath, and looking into the ideologies and the psychologies of these people that committed murder. Excellent. And a creepy tone to start off with. And then that heartbreak when the boss says, listen, Martin, I'm selling this. And, well, how long do I have? How many more tours do I have? Well, you're not happy. Today was it. And you want to drink, and they're bringing in a supermarket. And Martin Balsam's performance is great because this is his life. He's married, but she doesn't matter. He may have a friend or two. They don't matter. His life was these mannequins. His life was his job. And when that's certainly pulled away from him, he turns to this dark place in the Twilight Zone and starts picking these people up. Although it's really the mannequins doing it.
And that's what it comes around to. That's you know what? That's where we get our Twilight Zone type twist, right?
Yes.
Where it's the mannequin, to be fair, right? That brings it back very strongly into the Twilight Zone, because I hate to even spoil this one, my God, in case people haven't seen it, right?
Oh, okay. Spoiler alert, because we have to. I mean, sorry.
But yeah, it comes around that they are alive. They're and they've basically set him up. Would you say they essentially set him up?
They frame him because
I mean, I don't know how else to say it, right?
They do. I like they do a lot of these uncomfortable shots on their faces.
Yeah,
and it's so horrifying, man. To me, it's like if you go to a wax, museum after watching this episode, you're gonna be a little freaked out.
Yeah. I mean, they're creepy places anyway, and then you have an episode like this just to help. But I guess that's why, that's why movies too, like the House of Wax and stuff, we go with these sorts of things. It's just naturally creepy, like dummies. I mean, and there's just, or mannequins. there's something inherently creepy about these two.
And this show did Dummies scary with the Cliff Robertson episode, and then it did Mannequin scary with the After Hours and Anne Francis. But this right here, I would say, and people probably laugh at this, and I believe you would agree. We both, I think this is the most underrated episode of the entire series. Who talks about this?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I feel like it doesn't come up enough, and it's well worth praise. It's well worth the watch. Highly recommend this one.
Yeah, I do too. I think like you did a S for me is my grade.
Or highest. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw you did a video doing like your top 10 most underrated.
This was in there, yes.
I believe Death Ship was on there, as was this.
Yeah.
And this was number 1 on your list. And I completely agree. I did an episode with my buddy Will from the Cabin of Dr. Howdy. We did like our most underrated. We didn't talk about this one in the number 1 spot, but it was, I think, number 2. And we talked about Death's Head Revisited number 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I think you're totally right. It's horror themed episode. It's a slasher in a lot of ways. It's creepy. Balsam is great, and I love the finale.
Great finale.
Yeah, the finale is brilliant where, he is finally had it because they killed his boss, and he threatens to kill them all. They all come to life, swarm him, and then fast forward, we're in a museum elsewhere, and we're being taken through all the murderers, and we see him in the museum, and he's one of the most famous ones. And I love the closing narration. The new exhibit became very popular at Marchand's, but of all the figures, none was ever regarded more with dread, than that of Martin Lombard Zanescu. It was something about the eyes, people said. It's the look that one often gets after taking a quick walk through the Twilight Zone. I think that ending is brilliant. He's one of them now. He went from presenting them and creeping us out about them and saying what causes a man to become a killer. He comes full circle, and I think that's Twilight Zone 101. It's just a brilliant episode. To me, the best episode of the season by far. A big S tier for me.
All right, cool. Definitely 100% with you on this one. And I love that up next looks like we have or at least to me it's another fun one. We have let's see, season of late, I think of Cliffordville.
Yes, a little Julie Newmar. But before that, we'll just quick comments. Sorry. The actor and his demeanor really sells it. This is up there. Anything with wax figures, mannequins, I'm sold on. Me too. And it's creepy. Exhibit is the most fun episode of the season. Could have been a great episode of Serling's Night Gallery. I didn't think of that. Yeah, that probably would have, because in the gallery, right? LMFAO, Child's Play 2 references. Oh, okay. Never realized that. Hi, I'm Chucky, the Lakeshore Strangler. I'm going to kill you. LMAO. Okay, yeah. So of late, I think of Cliffordville. The little bit of Julie Newmar, baby. Definitely the hottest devil of the four.
Easily. I'll do the description of it anyway. Let's see. A business empire mogul strikes a bargain with the devil to travel backward in time to the life he remembers as a young man. But our devil is Julie Newmar, Miss Devlin. Come on, that name, Miss Devlin.
Love her.
So he goes back in time. Things do not work. So, all right, let me just a little bit more context. So the business mogul is like a monster. He's a real piece of shit. He goes back in time. He's achieved everything basically, and he just wants to relive it because he has nothing left to really live for. So he wants to go back, and he insists he can just do it all again because it's the thrill, right, of getting every damn thing in life he can possibly get and get his hands on everything. I'm sorry, I just do not like this guy, this character. It's a great episode, I love it, but the lead, he's supposed to be a villain. He's supposed to be a piece of crap, and he is. The episode is played he plays the part pretty well, the actor. But thankfully he goes back in time and nothing works out for him, despite having knowledge of what's to come. Nothing works out for him. He fails and falls flat on his face. It's great to watch this guy fail. And in the end, I believe the janitor ends up sort of being his boss when he returns to the present. Julie Newmar is the laughing devil throughout all of this. She sets him up and just plays his part brilliantly. She came out as like my number 2 in terms of Twilight Zone devils, but my God, it's almost tied. She's pretty much tied, I'd say, almost with Burgess Meredith. But it was great to see her here. Obviously, most famous for Catwoman. But what did you think of this episode, man?
I like this one. I will say this one, it's just, I don't know, maybe the half hour would have worked better here.
Okay.
I like I think Julie Newmar should be in it more because she
Okay.
steals it. And it's funny because, like you said, that the lead character is very unlikable.
Yeah.
And it's to the point where we're siding with the devil over him.
True, true. The lead is over the top in this one. He's a little over
Yeah.
the top. Yeah.
I
I can see
don't
that
know.
being
Like,
a put off maybe to some people. Is it a put off to you that he's a little goofy?
I don't know. I mean, okay, unlikable characters can work. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it's been done before. I know a lot of people hate the mind and the matter because that guy's unlikable. But I don't know. I always kind of like that one too. That's another one that nobody fucking likes but me. At least I think. But like to me, you can do this right. But it's the end of the day. I understand the concept is the climb. It's about the climb, not to where you get. And of course he goes back. He sells it for like all of his money to go back and the climb and I mean it's all right. I think
So
this
that's
one is
not
just a little too long. Like too long, too much of him, not enough Newmar.
Yeah. Well, she
I
was
don't know.
so goodness. Yeah, she really was goodness. It would have been nice if they could have worked her in more. I mean, she at least got more screen time than I think it was Jonathan Gomez did. She got a lot more. I mean, I guess she would have to by default since this is a 1 hour episode. Oh,
Yes.
this episode definitely would have went down a lot for me if she'd been in it even less. Like if they'd given her just like one quick scene and that was it.
Like
Quick.
Jack Albertson as the genie. Yeah, that would have been
Yeah, then it would have went down for me. But I think I can agree. Yeah, it would have been nice to see even more of her throughout. Yeah, fair enough.
I think she stole it for me. I think the episode overall, it sort of has the twist ending of at the beginning he's kind of talking down to this janitor, and at the
Yeah,
end
yeah.
they've switched. Okay, I get where you're coming from. I don't know. This one would have worked better shorter. I don't think it was too long and
Okay.
not enough of the best part of your episode, which was Julie Newmar. It's weird that you went with the devil here. Like, couldn't you theoretically had her just be anybody else? Like, did it have to be the devil? Because usually the other devil episodes, they're dealing more with like, I don't know, like death and destruction and stuff. This was just more to humiliate him.
We got the devil and we get time travel in this. That's a
Yes.
little
Like, do they go together? Like, I don't know. Like because escape clause, it makes sense. He makes the guy you can't kill him. And Howling Man, they have him locked up. And you know, wherever there was sin, wherever there was hate, Printer's Devil, it makes sense. He's causing all these horrible things. Her,
Yeah.
like, I love the performance, but like, did she even have to be the devil in this? Like, I don't even know, to be honest. But I don't know. Maybe it's a nitpick.
The episode "What's in the Box." We have are you familiar with that one?
I love that one.
Okay, we have a guy in the TV repairman. That's what I'm thinking of. He's not the devil. I wouldn't say he's the devil. We don't know what the hell he is. Maybe Julie Newmar could have been something more along those lines, but we don't know what she is. I think she's evil. I'm pretty sure she's evil, but she's some sort of an entity. She has powers. She's not necessarily a genie. Please, no more genies.
No more genies. No.
Maybe she would have been good as a genie. I don't know.
She would have been hot as a genie, but I don't.
Yeah, no, but I don't know. I guess I could see that, but now that you're mentioning it, I guess I could see that point. Yeah. I don't know. I think I lean toward liking this one still, like, but it would be a B. It's not an A for me. It's like a B minus ish for me.
Yeah, I would say like C plus. So we're right around the ballpark there. I think it's just average, maybe a little bit above average. Newmar saves it. Like if she wasn't in it, if it picked a lesser actress, I don't think I would have this one in the C level at all. Like this would be below average for me. But yeah, that is of late. I think of Cliffordville. That's an under talked about one. Not a lot of people go to that one. But up next, and I always do this just out of curiosity, especially if I'm doing television. This is, I believe, one of the most poorly reviewed episodes of the entire series. I don't know if it's lesser than The Bard. I think The Bard might be lesser reviewed than this. But this is season 4, episode 15's The Incredible World of Horace Ford. A toy designer, played by Pat Hengel, visits his old neighborhood and finds it is exactly as it was in his childhood. Yes. The Incredible World of Horace Ford. Thoughts on this one?
This is a clunker for me. This one just does not work really. The lead to me feels annoying. This is a tough one to get through. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's an F. It's and I feel like we're treading familiar territory with returning to the past.
Yes.
Walking Distance comes to mind, which is, I love it. It's just infinitely better episode and superior in every way. And then you have this one that just, it feels like it doesn't need to exist, to be honest. I don't mean to crap on something so maybe that sounds like I'm crapping on it pretty heavily. I don't know. It's just I struggle to find anything to like in this one.
Yeah, I will say that I don't know if I hate this one,
Okay.
but I saw some redeeming things here. But I agree, it's just taking so much from other episodes that are way better. And it's
Yeah.
like, why would I spend an hour of this when I could watch Walking Distance twice? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Which I
agree with
would.
you. It's not subtle like Walking Distance either. It's very like the lead character is very loud. Like this one guy has a problem and he's a toy maker. He has a problem with it and he goes off. And when I was a kid, blah, 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 blah. When I was
Mhm.
a kid, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of when I was a
Yeah.
kid, a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I will say it has some good points. I like when he goes back and he walks down the street and it literally goes from current to olden times
Yeah.
and he's seeing the kids. But again, this being an hour long, they reused that shot like 3 times in this episode. I'm like, yo, this is blatant. It's the same shot 3 times in a row of him walking through the town. And it's just done to pad it out. So that's
Yeah.
very weak. The ending is a little bit bizarre here where he's being bullied in
Yeah.
the alley and then his wife helps. Like, what the fuck?
I
Like,
Yeah, that comes back. That's it. Yet another thing. Like I come away from it not knowing what I'm supposed to think. I'm not sure I care. And that's, geez, I'm the biggest Twilight Zone geek in the world, and here we have an episode that's like making me like just totally, no pun intended. I'm just zoning out.
yeah.
Definitely no pun intended because that would be lame. But uh, yeah, man, this one just this maybe it's up. It is maybe one of my least favorites of like the whole series. I don't know.
Really? I don't
Yeah,
know if I'd say
no,
that low.
I'll
I would say it's bottom 3 of this season probably, or
yeah.
bottom 4, but I wouldn't say it's like one of the worst
Okay.
ever. I don't mind Pat Hingle. I don't know what you
No,
think.
no, no, not. I don't like him here. But I don't. But I like him in general. You know what I mean? Well, from Batman, right? He was
Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Gord. So yeah, great there. Here, I don't know. He wasn't working for me, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I don't think the episode works. It doesn't
Okay.
it
Maybe
doesn't
that's
fit
what it
for
is.
an
Not a lot
hour.
to work with.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know, man. This one, I would say it's not an F. I'd say it's like a D minus. It's
Okay.
close, but I would say I would watch this over the Genie one. I
Yeah.
I
Oh God, that would be a grueling choice.
and I would watch this over the Bard. I can give a spoiler alert there. I could
Yeah.
totally watch this over the Bard was a chore, but I would say like D minus. So this one, a slight thumbs down from the both of us. But you introduced the next one. This is probably the most beloved episode of the
Hey,
entire
all right.
season.
I got lucky. All right. On Thursday, we leave for home. The leader of an expedition to a remote asteroid cannot face his return to Earth, and it stars James Whitmore. James Whitmore, I think many of us will probably know from Shawshank Redemption,
Of
right?
course.
Brooks. Um, this was an incredible episode. I'm in the working on a review of this one right now. Coincidentally, it's. I think this one might be my favorite up above the new exhibit,
I
but
think most people would agree with that.
they're about tied. Like I feel like I could on any given day. Like I'm saying that today, and tomorrow I might feel the other way. But anyway, back to this episode. So the episode is about a group of settlers who have landed on an asteroid. They're there for 30 years. It's completely desolate. There's twin suns. They have sun blasting on them. They have a tough day. It's a nightmare just to get, just the day-to-day life is atrocious. But James Whitmore character, Captain Benteen, he holds them all together. And initially, he's seen as like this fatherly figure. He's definitely a leader. He's in charge. He's like strict but fair, I'd say. But things are getting like really tough where they are on the asteroid. They are hoping, the people are all hoping for a rescue. They've sent out word for a rescue, and supposedly a rescue is on the way. But this brings me to another one of my points. We don't even know for sure. Are these people really going to be rescued? Are they not going to be rescued? I hope so. We get a great scene in a cave where I believe the little kid's name was like little Jojo, who's like, "Please tell us about Earth." And we get this nice scene with Captain Benteen chilling, calming all the people down because there's a meteor storm. So all the people are huddled in his cave, and it's like a beautiful little moment. And James Whitmore has this great speech about Earth. I wouldn't do it any justice repeating it here, but it's I highly recommend watching this episode. But then there's a whole lot more to it because his character sort of makes a turn because they get rescued. Hooray! And it's like this joyous moment. But as the episode progresses and Captain Benteen starts losing his power over these people, he starts cracking. and he doesn't like it. It's almost like an identity crisis. He doesn't know what to do with himself. And I know that that's not putting it the best way, but that's basically what happens here. And it seems like he just doesn't want to lose control over these people. There's a lot going on here psychologically with his character, and it's almost sad and tragic to watch because he goes from this high point of sort of like almost like a loving figure. He's almost there's I feel like there's a lot of spirituality in here too, because he's literally holding the Bible. He's like a pastor for these people. So there's like a love there, and he did legitimately care for these people, but it all slips away. He can't deal with the idea of everybody going back to Earth, and he's not in charge anymore. He basically ends up sort of trying to sabotage the whole thing, and eventually he's left alone on his own. And he initially starts talking to himself, and it doesn't work out. He runs outside, and it's a terrible moment. He cries, "Please, take me with you," because by this point the people have already left. They left him behind. My description doesn't do this episode justice. I highly recommend.
I disagree. I think that was the best description you could have possibly gave.
And I'm more familiar with it also because I'm writing on it. But my God, what a great episode! Yeah, one of my favorites of this season. And I'm guessing we're on the same page with this one.
Absolutely. I think this is a fantastic episode. It's an S. I'll even say that right off the bat to kill any suspense. And I think, like you said, and you hit every nail and point that you can hit here. I love the idea of someone who at the beginning of the episode, he seems endearing and we like him. And at the end, it's so sad because he cannot accept the change. He was the hope that all of these people were kind of holding on to. Yet at the end, when it's taken away from him and they're all going to go their separate ways, he cannot move on with life. And Serling says in the closing narration, I made sure I got this here. William Benteen, who had prerogatives, he could lead, he could direct, dictate, judge, legislate. It became a habit, then a pattern, and finally a necessity. William Benteen, once a god, now a population of one. That's, to me, the perfect wrapping up of this character. It became a necessity. At first it had good intentions, and even towards the middle of the episode where he's like, I think we all should stay together, he wants these good intentions, but they're not realistic. He can't step down, and that's the hardest, bitterest pill for him to swallow. And that's the horrors of that. He even tries to destroy the ship. I'm going to destroy the ship so I can remain on top. It's an interesting thing that a lot of people in life have to swallow when you're not the boss anymore, and that's, I think, a very interesting thing to kind of tackle.
Absolutely.
And Whitmore nails it. Whitmore gives a wonderful performance. I love the final shot of the episode where he's reaching up and please, please.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I think it's a really good episode. S tier for me.
Agree. Yep, completely agree. Rod Serling at his finest in this episode. Yeah, this one was written by him, so absolutely.
Easily the best one he wrote for the season. Because I don't believe he wrote the new exhibit. I think, was it Beaumont that wrote the new exhibit?
I think so. I have to check my notes with that one, but
I could check too. Did you wear the Batman shirt on purpose for this one, Grande? No, honestly, I'm very ashamed to say I don't own a Twilight Zone shirt, and that's got to change. I certainly got to get one. He's Anthony's rocking the feet.
I have a few of them. This is one of them. The fear in the episode. There we go.
That's so cool. I'm jealous. That's really, really cool. Mateo had to leave. Got to go early tonight. Ciao, Grande. See you next week. Fever, very prepared and competent. Kudos. Thank you, Mateo. Appreciate that as always. Incredible World of Horror Sport has the running gag. Yes, which leads to nothing. Very weird. I don't know. That's a weird episode. If you don't have a wife that assists you in an alley fight, it's time to dump her. I agree. Sterling Holloway was in the What's in the Box.
Yeah.
Was known. Yep, that's true. I think we've got one more episode each, and it's my turn now. This is one I'm glad I rewatched. Not that I liked it that much, but it was one that I completely forgot. And it is season 4, episode 17, Passage on the Lady Anne, that aired May the 9th, 1963. An happily married couple find love when they sail the Atlantic aboard a ship originally designed for honeymooners. Yes, Passage on the Lady Anne. Now, this one is very odd. And, it fits in perfectly with the whole oddball theme of this season. You basically have a crumbling marriage, and to save their marriage, they want to go on a cruise. Now, I don't. Would that save a marriage? Would that? I don't know. I've never been married. I don't know. But I do think the idea of this boat, and all of these people are like 70 plus years old, and they're insinuating that they're pretty much going to die throughout this episode. Where is this ship going to? Is it going to heaven, limbo, purgatory? I don't know. And they don't ever tell you. They don't ever. They say that they're going to die, but that where they're going, I don't know, like heaven or hell or what. I like the idea of doing a whole episode on a boat. I think that was interesting, and I think the idea of, you know, young people along with and all these old people are like, oh, they shouldn't be on here. They shouldn't be on here. Interesting. This one, half hour. This should have been a half hour. There's no reason this should have been this long. What do you think of this one, though?
I think I'm in complete agreement. Yeah, I think there's a great half-hour episode in here, but I definitely didn't hate this one. This episode has its charms. There was some really solid performances here. I believe we get to see some familiar faces too from actors who had been in Twilight Zones previously. We get a fun moment in this where I believe the line is something along the lines of like, they say, "Oh, we've decided we don't have to kill you," or something like
that. And while they're eating dinner.
Oh, wait a minute. If you was zoning out a little bit during the episode, that woke you up. I don't. Wait a minute. I didn't know we were gonna. What's going on this ship? So that's what pulled me in a little bit more. If up to that, it was just like, okay, we have a bickering couple. We get a lot of bickering couples on Twilight Zone, don't we?
Yes.
And sour relationships or things that are falling apart. I don't know. I mean, this one, it's a slow burn episode, but it's fine. It's a solid episode, I think, overall. I don't know if I have much. I don't know if that I have strong thoughts one way or the other on this one.
I agree. It has good acting. It has Gladys Cooper in it before Night Call. It has some good veteran actors. It has a nice atmosphere. Like there's a fog every time they're outside. This nice fog. It looks authentic. It looks real. I like that. The idea of it. I just think this one should have been a little bit shorter. I think maybe that would have helped.
Yeah.
But again, not bad. I would say a solid B. Nothing great, but.
I think I'm about the same on that one. I think I'd go with a solid B as well. But because there's nothing really wrong here other than maybe just the fact that you could have trimmed some stuff, and it doesn't hurt it enough. So yeah, I'd go with a B.
Yeah, I think this one could have been saved if it was shorter, but I mean that is what it is. Money involved in this one. Their name was Ransom. Yeah, that's right. Their name was the Ransoms. I will say probably my biggest positive. I like that they never say flat out where they're going.
Yeah,
like they never say like, "Oh, this is the ship to heaven," or "This is the ship to limbo," or "This is the ship here." There.
I love that. That's the best way to go with a story like this. I think we want to keep things a little bit unclear. I like to hope that they're not going to hell though, because that's pretty grim. I mean, I'm gonna hope that everybody was headed off to heaven. Like just but
fingers crossed on that. I don't know, but it's funny. We've gone through 17 episodes, and there's an old saying: we saved the best for last. This is going to go against that saying. We may have just saved the worst for last. You can introduce it. You're unprivileged here.
Oh, Jesus. All right, let's see. A would-be writer played by Jack Weston, maybe the best part of this, summons William Shakespeare to help him write a teleplay. Okay.
The Bard.
This is a tough one to get through, isn't it? Even just describing this one, I'm gonna give a crappy description because this episode doesn't deserve it. No, that's not nice. Okay, written by Rod Serling, surprisingly though, but it is what it is. This feels like all right. So it's a story about a struggling writer. It's a comedy episode, I guess, or at least something supposed to be lighter in tone / satire, I guess, right? There's a struggling writer. He basically uses magic sort of to summon the ghost of William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare starts writing for him. I'm going to give the worst description of this. We go back and forth. People want revisions on Shakespeare's work. That's sort of the main joke of this, isn't it? That people, even when Shakespeare writes it, the people who are in charge want revisions, and the sponsors have something to say. That seems to be the punchline here. And we kind of keep repeating that. There's one highlight in this episode. I guess we'll get to where we get a young Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, cool, very cool.
Parody. I just want to say that now, just to lift the spirits up.
Yeah,
it's a nice little spoof of like a young Marlon Brando. That woke me up in this episode.
And he gets knocked out by Shakespeare.
Yeah,
it's bizarre.
Yes. Oh my God, what a mess. And then it ends. He brings a bunch of people in. Who does he bring in? Pocahontas. He brings George Washington in. It goes
How did
off the
Pocahontas?
rails. It goes off the rail. Like he literally brings everybody back, right? The writer. That's a terrible description. If you've seen this episode, you know what I mean. What are your thoughts on this one? Maybe you could fill in the gap from what I left out.
I don't know if I can though. Like I watched it. It's the last one I watched for show prep on
This
purpose.
one took a few tries for me to get through. I turned this one off. I think well, prior to doing your show, I think this was like I tried it, couldn't get through. Tried again, couldn't get through. I think on a third time or so, I finished it, just didn't like it, and here we are.
Yeah, I will say, like, I got through I Dream of Jeannie easier than this. This is the hardest one to watch to me. I don't know if it's worse. It might be. I don't care for the idea, and this is coming from someone who actually studied Shakespeare in college, not even too long ago. I mean, you're talking. I was 21 was in that class, so 4 years ago. I was studying Shakespeare, so you'd think if anyone would be interested, it'd be somebody that learned it and read a lot of Shakespearean sonnets.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't find this funny.
Yeah.
The lead character, you want to talk about Horace Ford being unlikable. This guy I thought was even more unlikable. It's like,
you know what? On the first watch, yeah, I think I was the same way. For some reason, I sort of liked him a bit more in the second watch. Jack Weston also showed up in Dirty Dancing.
of course.
Yeah, and that was such a fun role. And yeah, one of my favorite lines in that movie. Of course, Patrick Swayze, of course, is the lead of that movie and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had this great little line about like how parents, kids don't want to go to the, to here anymore. And take foxtrot lessons with their parents. They want trips to Europe, and he's such a fun little actor. But then here I feel like he kind of, I guess he does his best with what he can with this material. It's a comedy. It's not working. We get the old school sound effects, like meaning like all these wacky sounds. You're supposed to laugh here, and it's like, no, I'm not.
Yeah, they do this all.
Maybe it's dated. Like, comedy doesn't always age well, right?
No, so, and it doesn't for this show a lot. It happened like it really. There's a lot of bad. Like some of the worst ones are bad comedies. It's weird. There's a sequence in this where he's dancing in front of Shakespeare. And it goes on for far too long. Like speaking of Dirty Dancing, like what the fuck? Like,
I don't know. There's a lot of weirdness in here.
I was cool to see Burt Reynolds. I was like, oh my god, somebody with talent. Like holy shit! And then he knocks out Burt Reynolds. I'm like, okay, I'm just off the bandwagon with this. And I don't know. This is a goofy one. Maybe I was supposed to watch it with a different mindset, but I don't know. I didn't really smile once at all.
I don't know. I've seen online people do like this episode. It has its fans. I've seen it. I'm like, okay, to each his own. Fair enough. But yeah, no, so not for me, and I guess not for you either. I'm gonna even go I go with an F on this one.
I would go with an F as well. And also, fun fact: I noticed this actor in there last night. I never noticed him before. John MacGyver, who's also in my absolute least favorite Twilight Zone, Sounds and Silences, is in this one too. He's not only in my least favorite episode ever, he's in my least favorite episode of season 4, which I was like, wow, this poor guy, best show of all time, ended up being my two of my least favorite episodes.
Brutal.
Yeah. So wrapping this up here though, I figured this would be fun, and I know we didn't plan this. Give me a top 3 and a bottom 3 for this season. So your favorite 3, bottom 3, and then maybe in the middle one, the one you'd recommend people watch the most. That is the top 3.
Well, yeah, for me, I think I go with On Thursday We Leave for Home would probably be my number 1. Then The New Exhibit, number 2, and then I'd probably wrap it up with Death Ship. I feel like that's my top 3 off the top of my head. And then I guess like in the middle there, we have some fun ones. We have the first episode of this, just refer to my notes again. I always zone on
In His Image.
Thank you. In His Image, I would be one. I recommend that one for people to check out as well. I think there's a lot of fun stuff there going on. And then for bottom 3, I would go with The Bard, and I would go with Horace Ford and what were we like
the Genie?
Yeah, the Genie. I'm trying to shove it out of my brain. So
that's a good idea. I wish I had too. I would probably have the same 3 top, but I would say New Exhibit, Death Ship, On Thursday We Leave for Home, and then bottom 3 would be The Bard, I Dream of Jeannie, and then either Horace Ford or Mute. It's one of those two.
Okay, wow. We're
Part of me,
pretty similar on top threes and bottom threes. Wow.
yeah, we were pretty. I don't think we were too far. I think
No,
the
no, no.
only
And
one we were
I
far
didn't even
was
know
Jess
that.
Bell, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Wasn't Jess Bell the only one we were like?
Yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, that I think you like that one a bit more than I did. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I would say if I had to recommend, like I would say like that's one I would recommend for people. I would. And like sometimes like we said tonight, upon a second viewing, you could like something more or less.
Definitely.
This was one of those cases I liked it more. But yeah, no, unless you have anything else you wanted to add, I figured we could call it a night. We've had this over 2 hours. I want to thank you for coming on. You were a wonderful guest.
Oh my God, dude, I want to come back.
You're more than welcome. We got 3 more seasons we could do. So
nice. No, dude, this was a blast. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Thank everybody in the comment section. This is awesome. I love talking Twilight Zone with like a fellow Twilight Zone fan. It's been a blast. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. It's a blast talking with you, fellow New Yorker, fellow T-Zone fan. And, I had a great time tonight. But, everybody that watched, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we will be back next week where I actually, funny enough, we're doing another television show season ranking. We're doing Teen Titans, which I've done seasons 1 and 2. On to season 3 next week. So I'm looking forward to that. A couple TV episodes of The Graveyard. But Anthony, thank you so much. Guys, if you haven't seen Anthony's channel, once again, Fever Dreamland Theater, you can go over, subscribe to him. He does excellent Twilight Zone content. He's also working on the script for On Thursday We Leave for Home right now. That's going to be awesome. And everybody, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, safe, happy, healthy weekend. We will catch you next time only on The Graveyard. Too sweet, peace. And we'll catch you next time.
Peace.